welcome to a very special episode of the Cine-Files. This is episode number 100.
Wow.
Did you think we'd be around 100 episodes later?
I'm not going to lie to you. It was touch and go. It was touch and go. I remember we were on the 50 episode mark. It was touch and go. But we had honest conversations. Of course. That's what happens as this thing grows, and you start to feel, because you had not done podcasts before, so you start to feel more comfortable. There's some things, so we had to kind of figure it all out, and once we figured it all out, it's been fine since. So after that, yes, I had no worries that
I think we've hit a rhythm too.
Yes.
I think we really kind of figured out.
People compliment us too now, saying how they go back and listen to the old episodes and see how we were still figuring it out, which is really interesting to hear.
Well, it's funny. It took us, because I probably listened all of them twice, and I went back and listened to some of the older ones.
Yeah,
and I mean, there are certain moments I think where it shifted, like, because when we started, we were trying to do 1 hour episodes.
We were. And
it was just sort of a conversation. And now we're up to 2.5, 3 hour episodes or movies.
But I would argue the show's better.
I think it is. And there are moments like Apocalypse Now was a big change. West Side Story was a big change. Wrath of Khan was a big change. Blade Runner was a big change. Like, the ones were sort of like, oh, this is what we do.
Yeah.
Well,
and also, that's a thing for me, because I always think I wake up and it's perfect. Like, I never think it's in the top 10. Like, people, we've started releasing the old top 10 shows.
Oh yeah,
from when we first started as a gift to the patrons or donate a certain amount, and they're all just like, it's incredible the difference, blah blah blah, and I'm just like, oh, I always thought the show was the show. But because I'm too close to it, I don't know that we've changed necessarily from.
I'm sure you and Matt had little conversations along the way.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't think Top 10 has changed as much as Cine-Files has.
And the reason we took a break was because
you went through a huge change,
and we were doing too much.
Yeah,
and we were overwhelming each other. It was too much, which is why we're in a nice rhythm now. And the same thing here.
Well, there's a thing, I know you listen to the Mark Maron podcast.
Yeah,
and one of the things you always hear is, like, it takes a while for the comedian to find their voice, and that it's certainly for me. You had much more podcasting experience.
Right.
It's taken some time for me to figure out, okay, how do I want to do this? How do I? And for me, of course, it's meant more and more prep.
Yes, it has.
But I think,
but it's also made you more comfortable.
Oh yeah,
the process,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So before we get into our Q&A, there's one thing I want to address, because it's been asked several times now on Twitter. It's been asked on Facebook, and that is why we're doing so many 2-part episodes.
Oh, really?
And the reason is, and a lot of it's just on me, is that as our episodes have gotten longer and longer, and we just recorded one where we recorded about 3 hours.
Yeah.
Is that I just can't edit it all.
Yeah.
So if a movie, and I would love to be able to put out a whole movie every week, but if our recording gets well above 2 hours, it's going to get split into two, because I just don't have the time to edit that kind of stuff in that amount of time.
And it gives you time to listen to my other podcasts. You selfish bastards. You don't need 3 hours of one podcast. Separate it out. You look forward. Don't you look forward to it? Why are you frustrated because we're doing it? Because you're looking forward to finishing it. It makes you come back, doesn't it?
And over and over again, when we've sort of asked the question about detail, everyone has said more detail, more in depth. That's what you guys want to hear, and so that just takes more time.
This is the price you have to pay for wanting more detail.
Yeah. So we'd announced to all of you that we are going to not do a movie for our 100th episode, but we're going to instead take some time to answer all of your questions. We got a whole bunch of questions, and so I'm going to start right away. We have a question here from Jeff Cook, and Jeff Cook says, and he's, by the way, from Greeley, Colorado, and he says, if you could only have 5 movies for the rest of your life, what are they? So this is a question you've probably thought about a ton.
Yeah, but they're not. It's not the top 5 movies,
right?
What are the 5 movies I could have for the rest of my life?
Yeah. Citizen Kane's not on my list, by the way.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I don't know who you are.
I know. I'm sorry.
Citizen Kane is definitely on my list. Coming to America would have to be on my list. Because that film makes me laugh so fucking much. When Harry Met Sally would have to be on my list.
Oh, you know what? I'll put that on my list.
Don't steal.
It's not stealing.
Die Hard would be on my list.
Die Hard is on my list. Jaws is on my list.
And Seven Samurai.
Ooh, I have Lawrence of Arabia would be on my list.
That's your epic. That's my epic. Your epic.
Yeah, and I might have It's a Wonderful Life on my list.
Oh, good choice.
Yeah,
Shit.
because I saw because I had like
okay.
The thing about the thing about this movies for the rest of your life is it's got to be a movie that you go back to. You want to go back to a lot, and it's got to be a movie that scratches a different itch. That's why I love When Harry Met Sally. That is a great, because I was trying to think of a comedy and I didn't, and When Harry Met Sally is really funny and romantic. Yeah.
All right. I toss out Coming to America because if I have a comedy with When Harry Met Sally, I'm going to put in Hoosiers.
Ooh, that's a great one for you.
I have to have a sports movie.
Yeah. All right. You want to get the next question?
What's your 5? Oh,
I said, so Jaws, Die Hard, Lawrence of Arabia, When Harry Met Sally, and It's a Wonderful Life.
Wow. Yeah. Jaws in there. That's a great choice. All right. This is from Tony Jenkins. John and Steve, so what are some of your guys' favorite fantasy movies? I mean, you have 2 from my list, Godzilla 1954 and King 1933, King Kong, rather.
So Tony is a Patreon member. So his list, these are movies he's requested from that.
Okay.
Us. Yeah.
How do you know this? Does he say this or you know this?
I know this.
Okay, great. Okay. But are either of you Ray Harryhausen fans? I'm talking about some of the black and white sci-fi movies like It Came From Beneath the Sea and 20,000 Million Miles to Earth. But then some of my favorite fantasy by... Okay, Tony's got a lot to say here. But some of my favorite fantasy by Ray are Three Worlds of Gulliver, Mysterious Island, Seventh Voyage of Sinbad. Yes, I love that. Jason the Argonauts, and finally The Clash of the Titans. Do you think you might explore the world of Ray Harryhausen sometime down the line? Well, that's my main question. I can't wait till you two review more fantasy. So what are some of your favorite fantasy movies?
Well, let me just say, Ray Harryhausen, Seven Voyages of Sinbad, that was huge for me.
For our age,
yeah,
that is a movie you have to have seen.
Yeah, and I love Jason and the Argonauts and Clash of the Titans, of course. Like so totally love those. Favorite fantasy? Well, I would say that Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope is among my favorite.
I suppose that
movies.
counts. Yeah.
I like the Lord of the Rings movies, which you don't.
No. It's not that I don't like them. It's that I don't think they should be as revered as much as people revere them because I find a lot of holes and a lot of issues with those movies.
Yeah.
I don't think they're terrible.
Excalibur.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Absolutely agreed.
That one's just awesome for me.
Yeah, I think I would have to agree with that one. Harryhausen, do you think we'll tackle any Harryhausen?
I don't know. I mean, this is one of the hard things about picking movies for the Cine-Files is I think it would be totally interesting to dig into one of those.
Okay.
But there's so many other movies that I would think, it's like, are we going to do that? We still haven't done a Hitchcock movie. So
for God's sakes, what's wrong with us?
Yeah.
We got to focus on Hitchcock for the rest of the year, I think. At least 2 of them. You don't seem happy about that.
No, I'm totally happy. I was literally thinking about something completely different.
Stop
I agree 100%.
doing that. Stop fucking doing that.
Sometimes my brain goes to different places.
I know.
Yeah.
Wait, I feel like we're missing a big fantasy one. Can I look it up real quick while you look at the other question?
Sure.
Now, other fantasy films, Wizard of Oz,
Sure.
The Princess Bride.
Okay. Yeah, that might be the number one for me.
Yeah, that's the Harry Potter films are good fantasy films,
Sure.
I think.
I adore the books.
Do you like Willow, the movie?
I haven't seen it in forever. I liked it when it came out, and then as I got a little older and watched it, I kind of liked it less, and I haven't seen it since.
Time Bandits?
I don't love it. I tried watching it again recently.
People have asked us to do that film.
I loved it as a kid,
Yeah.
and I tried watching it recently, and I didn't get through it.
Now, is Conan the Barbarian a fantasy?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Alien?
No.
No, that's a sci-fi.
Yeah.
Avatar? Sci-fi.
Yeah.
Jumanji?
I saw it once.
Okay.
People love that movie.
Yeah, I don't get it. The sequel was so much, or whatever that was so much more interesting. Okay, I think that's enough for the fantasy movie.
Okay.
All right, what's the next
Our
question?
next question is from Laura Deverson.
Okay. Hi, Laura.
This is also a long one.
Ooh.
So I might feel free to edit this a little bit as we go. But hi, gentlemen. Congratulations on getting to this amazing milestone. I have loved every episode, even when I didn't particularly like the movie itself. That's nice to hear.
It's a great compliment.
I always come away with a new appreciation of that film, and your work has really introduced me to some fantastic films. I would probably never have watched Yojimbo or Trial at Nuremberg. Those are 2 great ones without the Cine-Files. So thank you for forging the path of discovery for me. Oh, that's great. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah.
Here's your question. I personally really struggle with separating the artist from the art. Okay.
Oh boy.
My opinion something is always really colored by what I know or have heard about the people involved. I struggle with Kubrick films because I know how difficult he was. I appreciate the skill and craft behind them, but I have real emotive block in enjoying them. I've seen footage of people like David O. Russell who are just downright abusive. And with the revelations of the Me Too movement, do you think it is unfair to criticize a piece of art if you have an issue with the contributors? Thanks again for taking my question, and enjoy all of your success. Cheers, Laura.
Well, I'm a little mad at Laura
Okay.
because it's judgment at Nuremberg.
Right.
So if you're going to say something, I struggle now to be emotive with you, Laura. No. This is a great question. And
Yeah,
it's a question that's really blossomed in power over the last couple of years because of the Me Too movement and the Time's Up movement.
Yeah. So I struggle with this too. And so I think, first of all, we have to kind of divide it up. I tend to try to divide up hard questions. Is that, first of all, it's sort of about whether or not what we do in the future and what we do with their work of the past.
Well, echoes of the past.
Yeah. So, yes.
Speaking of Gladiator.
Like, am I going to see Woody Allen's next movie? Probably not. You know, if I were an actor who Woody Allen wanted to work with them, would I work with him? Probably not. You know, how do I feel about some of my favorite movies of all times that are Woody Allen movies? And that's where it gets more difficult. And I have several thoughts about it because I'm really struggling with this too. And so, first of all, Bill Cosby to me is out. Like, he was so important to me. I memorized all those albums.
Right.
I love Bill Cosby so much. And to me, Bill Cosby was continually representing himself as a person in his art in a certain way. And that was a lie. And his work has been destroyed for me.
Yeah.
I cannot watch an episode of The Cosby Show or listen to one of those comedy albums and not know that this is all a lie. It is ruined.
Yeah.
When it comes to a film director, like, is Woody Allen becoming more and more problematic person for me? Yeah, he is.
Okay.
Is Crimes and Misdemeanors, which we did on this show, one of my favorite films? Yes, it is. Is Martin Landau's performance diminished by who Woody Allen is as a person?
Yeah.
You know, a movie is a team effort. And this is where I've come to at this moment, and this is in flux, because I literally am thinking about this. There's a day doesn't go by that I'm not thinking about this problem. Is I don't want the terrible things they do to take something away from me that I love. Like the Declaration of Independence is written by Thomas Jefferson. Thomas Jefferson is a slave owner. Right. He is, ostensibly or essentially a rapist, who continued to own the children of the woman that he owned that he was having sex with.
Sally Hawkins, yeah.
Yeah. And so how should I feel about the Declaration of Independence? Should I reject it? No. The Declaration of Independence is an amazing document that has shaped our country. And so I have to be able to have a complicated thought about and look clearly at this person and say, this person was a genius who did all these things that were great, and he did all these things that were terrible. Yeah. And that's kind of where same like Woodrow Wilson's another president who I think about, who was, founder of the League of Nations, had the 18 points of that we, about human rights and all this stuff. And he was a tremendous, tremendous racist.
Yes, he was.
And to me, like, I should be able to hold both of those thoughts about him at the same time, So Roman Polanski was a brilliant director, and he was a Holocaust survivor, and his family was killed by the Mansons, and he was a rapist. And I should be able to keep all of that straight. That's where I am at this moment today.
Well, I would say that's pretty much where everyone's at. And I think that's most people, to be honest with you, because this is a personal question.
Very personal.
So you can decide for yourself. And if you want to judge other people for not believing the way you believe about it, that's fine. But art is subjective. And because it's subjective, the artists within it are just as prone to the subjective approach or subjective analysis that you would like to do. So, yes, I don't know everything about what happened with Bill Cosby, but I know for me, I'm with Steve. Like, it's so funny you bring this up. The other day I was listening to on my iPod or on my iPhone, and the Ray Charles song came on that they do as an anniversary gift to their parents, and it's one of the iconic episodes, iconic scenes in that show, and yet I have to divorce my smile from that memory because of that person who was involved in it. And I'll never go back and watch a Cosby Show or, like you, listen to an album or watch it. It's just too frustrating. With Woody, it's getting worse. But I also rail against the hypocrisy that's going on a little bit on these actors that all of a sudden don't want to work with Woody, all of a sudden have an issue with it because everyone else has an issue with it. Now they're all coming out with these statements like, oh, I'll never work with, I donated the money, blah, blah. What were you thinking before? You didn't all of a sudden have an incredibly no, it's because the public's taste for it changed. You, to stay relevant, to stay famous, to stay popular, you've changed your point of view on it because it's acceptable. But I commend people who change their points of views on something when it's not acceptable, when it's not de rigueur, for lack of a better French term, to do it. I respect that stance way more than someone who goes along with the crowd because the crowd is turned. I have way more respect for people who were not working with Woody the first time they heard about this, with the Soon Yi stuff. Right. As soon as they signed, and Roman Polanski too, we gave him an Oscar for The Pianist. Like, now we would never allow him to do something like that. But those are how far do you go with Elia Kazan? These are all subjective things, and you have to decide for yourself what you feel comfortable with, what you don't feel comfortable with. If you can live with yourself, that's enough. That's the subjective nature of art. No one should tell you, you should stop listening to them, you should stop watching them. It's your choice.
Well, and there's this weird ancillary thing, which is that if you don't reject this person, then you are as bad as that person. And I don't like that. I don't think that's
not true.
I think because the thing is like, you have the Harvey Weinsteins and the Bill Cosbys, and they're at a certain level, you know, or
I'm not throwing out my Weinstein films.
Yeah.
Like Miramax. I'm not throwing out Good Will Hunting because he produced it.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Well, this is why these are team efforts.
Yeah.
And the one thing, by the way, on the Woody Allen one, but I had read all the stuff, and I had read very persuasive things coming from Mia Farrow, but then I had also read very persuasive things coming from Woody Allen, and I had read what the police things were, and I watched that Woody Allen documentary I know we both watched, and I went, I can't really know what happened here. And so I hung back, and what's changed that for me in the last few months is Ronan Farrow.
Right.
And he is so brilliant and so smart and is so that now I'm kind of going, you know what?
But so was his quote unquote dad.
Sure.
If his dad is really Woody Allen and not Frank Sinatra, then he's just as so. It's not that I doubt Ronan. It's like I said, it's subjective.
But Ronan has been spending his life doing this work.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean? It's tough. Anyway, let's move on to our next question.
But I do want to say one last thing to Laura. Laura, you have a right to not have an emotive connection to Kubrick's stuff. It's not the most emotively connected film work anyway, but if you have an issue with Kubrick and all that, you have every right not to feel emotive. And you should not vilify yourself, and you should not let anyone else vilify you for having that opinion. All right, our next question comes from Martin Windigger, I believe. Is that correct, Steve?
Yep.
Hello, Steve and John. Really enjoying the Cine-Files. I usually watch the movies before listening to your discussions, so I haven't heard all the episodes yet. You constantly give me more reasons to finally catch up on my movie list, which is still way too long. Is there any movie you would love to talk about on the show, but you don't because it doesn't fit the criteria of the show? Greetings from Austria. Keep doing what you're doing. Martin, I lived in Vienna for 10 days. Austria is a beautiful country. Thank you for sending that in. Steve.
The criteria of the show. Well, the big criteria of the show is the 10-year mark, you know. And there's tons of movies in the last 10 years.
The criteria of the show is
what we want to do.
A great film.
Yeah. So well, like we talked about just a few minutes ago, like the Ray Harryhausen movies of like, maybe that doesn't fit. And well, and there are other movies that I really like, and I kind of am like, well, maybe that isn't at the level.
Right.
Well, and there are other things too. Like so one thing, you know, we check out how many people download an episode each week.
Yeah.
And it's very clear that our choice in movies has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
So when we do Dark Knight, a lot of people download that episode.
Right.
And when we do
Some Like It Hot.
Some Like It Hot, fewer people are going to download that episode. Now, Some Like It Hot's an amazing movie. And there are a lot of movies where you and I have had the conversation of kind of like, is anyone going to want to listen to that?
Yeah.
Even if we really dig it. So, yeah.
You'll never do Coming to America.
Oh, no, I'll do it. If you really love it, I'll do it.
See, that's the thing. So it doesn't fit the criteria of the show because it's not a great comedy. It's a fantastic comedy. It's fun. It's a lot of, but it's a.
You know what I think it is about Coming to America, by the way, is that I'm a couple of years older than you.
Okay.
Is that for me, it's Beverly Hills Cop. That is the pinnacle of Eddie Murphy for me.
And that's a great point because you're right. I think you're right because I respect Beverly Hills Cop a lot, but it's not one I'll put on because there's more humor in Coming to America.
Coming to America is more of a straight up comedy.
I think one of the Jim Carrey films, one of the comedies, I would love to do one of those comedies. Not Ace, probably Liar Liar, or even Yes Man, which I have a terrible love for that movie.
So. Well, and this is the thing too. Like, so John and I will bend to some degree.
Yes.
Like we have a guest who really wants to do something, and we're kind of like,
Yeah.
we'll do it. If I'm really passionate about something, you'll do it. If you're really passionate, I'll do it. But there's only so far we'll bend, and there's only so far that we want to bend the other one. Like if I get a sense from you, and if you get a sense from me of like, I'm not really digging it.
Yeah.
Then it's hard to, because the show's a lot of work.
We had a guest we were potentially looking at with the same thing where that occurred, and we won't say names, but like where we could not settle on a movie, and then eventually we lost the guest because we could not settle on a movie that all three of us could agree with.
Yeah, and which is, you and I both kept having a bad feeling.
Yeah.
And that's not a way to start.
That's not a good thing, yeah.
All right, our next question is from Flogur. I don't know.
I like that.
It made me think of Sirhan, which is not cool. Okay. Hey, Stephen Sean. First of all, thank you for reading my question. You are welcome. I've been a fan of the podcast for a long time now, and it helped me appreciate and love certain films even more. Thank you for that. That's awesome. That is our whole goal.
Well,
at the
yes,
Cine-Files.
very much so.
My question, what are some of your favorite hidden gems, movies not enough people have seen, or movies that you feel are underappreciated? Maybe you could list some of the reasons why you love these movies as well. Would love to hear your picks. All the best and greetings from Austria.
Yeah,
Two in a row from Austria.
I love it.
Well, since you said I was in Austria when I was 10 years old and I had some strudel and it was delicious.
I dated a girl. Her kisses were also delicious.
You think your girl is better than my strudel?
Yeah, I think so. I would say so.
Hidden gems. I'm so bad at coming up with lists on the spot, but the one that I love is, which I don't think you've seen, is a movie called 7 Days in May, which is
I have not seen that.
Yeah. It's John Frankenheimer. It's Kirk Douglas. It's Burt Lancaster. It's Ava Gardner. And I mean, it's a great cast. It's written by Rod Serling, directed by John Frankenheimer.
Yeah.
I think it's the one he made after Manchurian Candidate, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
And it is just a really great political thriller that I've watched many, many, many times.
Okay.
But yeah, it's definitely a hidden gem.
I'm going to answer this question. Hold on.
Oh, he's pulling out. For those of you not watching, John Roca has pulled out his entire DVD collection.
This is my Criterion collection.
Oh, wow.
And it's very big. So I would say the Sword of Doom is a phenomenal samurai film.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
That a lot of people have not seen. And it's Toshiro Mifune against Tatsuya Nakadai, which is fantastic. Solaris, the Russian Solaris, 3 hours.
It's great. I've never watched it.
It's so good. Yeah. Not the Clooney one. The original Russian one from the 70s is incredible. I do have Paths of Glory. We should watch that sometime. Okay.
Paths of Glory I want to do sometime. I love that.
We should totally do that one sometime. Where did I put the other one that I was looking at? Chimes of Midnight. Another great one from Wells. If you have not seen that, it is essentially the 5 plays with Falstaff all put together into one film. So I would say those, and a great Hitchcock one, The 39 Steps. A lot of people have not seen The 39 Steps. Robert Donat's the star of that one. And it starts in a theater and ends in a theater. And it's a phenomenal film that goes all around the world. And I would throw a stupid one in. Oh, I would throw a French one in from Gerard Depardieu called Tous les matins du monde, which is All the Mornings of the World.
Never seen it?
Yeah. Depardieu's son plays him as a young man who falls in love with his mentor's daughter, and he's a cellist, I think, and he falls in love with it's their tumultuous romance that shapes him as he gets older and he becomes a teacher. He is embittered by the end of that relationship, and he goes back in time because someone comes to play for him that is able to hit the notes that brings him back to that time. It's an incredible film.
I'll add 2 more.
Okay.
And these also fall in the category of movies that I don't know our Cine-Files would download.
Yeah.
One is one we talked about a bunch, which is F.W. Murnau's The Last Laugh.
Oh.
Early silent film.
Yeah.
It is it's my favorite silent movie. It is profound and powerful and moving. And then The Rules of the Game, which is Renoir.
Yes. That's a Criterion one as well.
It is. Have you ever seen it?
No. Should I pick that up next time there's a sale?
Yeah, it's great.
Do you know how many films I've picked up for?
I do too. You and I do the same.
Yeah, it's a horrible addiction.
I have a big stack. I mean, the good thing is when I get a Criterion, I know I can get a Cine-Files episode out of it because it's going to have all the stuff that I need.
I would add Zorro the Gay Blade, but I don't want to. All right.
I watched that so much in the 70s.
I would love to do that as a patron.
When was the last time you saw it?
A year ago. I have it on DVD.
My last time I saw it was 25 years ago.
What?
Yeah.
I'll put it on right now. All right. This is from Luke James. Hello to you, Steve and John. I am wondering, what was it like when you found other people who thought of movies in the way you do? Was it a friend in college or a colleague at work? Who was the first person you nerded out with about movies? Kind regards, Luke Riley from merry old England. Thank you, Luke.
I'm going to say not movies, but the first person I really nerded out with is probably Jeff Johnson,
Okay.
who was a friend I met in high school. And it was the first person who I really loved comic books and fantasy and science fiction and movies and science stuff and all of the whole thing.
So you did nerd out with him about movies?
Yes, but it was about, I think comic books was
a number of things.
Comic books was the first thing I really nerded out about.
I would have to say my best friend Maurice, who's still my best friend,
Yeah.
who is the city manager in Charlottesville, Virginia. We were deep into movies from high school on, from 15 years old on. We would like go to see movies all the time and talk about them and rent them and watch them. It was so great. We'd have these conversations. So definitely, but the person who really turned me on to film and taught me how to look at film was my friend Wade Niziolek. I hope I'm saying that right, from Charlottesville, Virginia. He essentially, when I worked there for a year and a half before I came to Florida State, he essentially ran a mini film class with me as his only student. When I worked overnight.
That's always sounded like it was really formative for you.
Incredible. He so many films he brought in to teach me, and it was I wouldn't be here now without it.
Okay, next is Claiborne Williams. Clay Williams. So, hey guys, this is Claiborne Williams. As you probably know, I'm a huge fan of you both and love supporting this amazing show. Yes, we do, and we are very appreciative of your support.
Thank you, Claiborne.
I have two questions. Two questions are not allowed, rejected. I'm not going to read the rest of this. No, I'm just kidding. If that's okay, my first question is: what film released in the last 5 years do each of you want to do an episode of right now?
The Phantom Thread.
Oh, Phantom Thread, which I still haven't seen. I would love to do Avengers: Infinity War.
Yes. That would be so much fun to dissect.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you something I was thinking. I don't think we're going to do it. But I was like, you know what would be really fun is, and not all of them are great films, so they don't qualify, is to do the entire Marvel series.
Oh, that would be fun.
Building to Avengers: Infinity War.
Sure.
You know? I mean, I don't know.
19 films.
Yeah. Well,
or 18, rather.
Yeah. Well, and most of them, you know, look, assuming
we could skip some.
We're doing this for the next 10 years. If we were to do that, then maybe we would have time to do all those films.
We would take 3 months out of and then do those films back to back to back to back.
We could. Yeah.
But those would be two-parters, most of them.
Yeah. Well, some of them don't take that much.
Well, no, we would skip Dark World.
Yeah.
And we would skip Iron Man 2.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Do you have another one? Or
what was the question?
Oh, the second question.
What was the first question?
Film in the last 5 years. You said Phantom Thread.
Arrival.
Oh, Arrival's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is
any Denis Villeneuve, Sicario, Arrival, or Blade Runner 2049.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Second question. In what films do one of you want to analyze, even though it'll probably never, what do you want to do that will probably never happen? It's sort of like what we've already had. Whether you guys can't agree on the particular film, it's too poorly received to consider, or it's way too unknown. I feel like we've already kind of hit that a little bit.
Yeah.
Hope of all that makes sense to you. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you, Clay.
Thank you, Clay.
We will keep up the amazing work.
We'll do our best.
All right.
The next one's from Niall Martin. Hi, Steve and John. I'm a big fan of your...
this is like a...
Yeah, it's a long one. I'm a big fan of your podcast, and I've been a Patreon subscriber for some time now, worth every cent. I hope that you two still experience the same joy you did when you first started doing the podcast. Yes. And if the quality of the pod is any indication, it seems like you two are having more fun than ever before. I have a question that I often wrestle with while studying cinema in college, but never felt anyone could adequately answer it. There are so many different mediums within the larger realm of entertainment, for example, music, literature, television, film, etc. It's a long question, so I'm reading this as fast as possible. Yet, out of all these different formats, it seems that film or cinema is the only medium that is constantly being recycled. That is, ideas or stories are continuously being reused or reframed as someone's own work. I think a perfect example, despite its widely accepted failure, is Gus Van Sant's Psycho. That film not only happens to be a copy of the original, it was literally produced as an exercise experiment in frame-by-frame recreation. Yes. In the arena of music...
You know what? He's got a bolded section.
Where's the section? Let's get to that.
So there's just a bolded question here. I think we should just answer that.
In essence... Well, okay, director, calm down. I was getting there. In essence... I guess my question is, why is the medium of film so much more susceptible to use recycled ideas and even imagery? Well, if I could answer this first, I would say, A, that's not true. Because look at music. The whole controversy that happened with music, the sampling was people
Yeah,
legitimately
that's a great point.
using, like with MC Hammer, Can't Touch This, Rick James song, Super Freak. And so it was using that, and then with Vanilla Ice using Under Pressure, Queen's Under Pressure. So sampling was a whole big thing, and it still goes on. I still discover songs that I didn't know were the basis for other songs. Like Will Smith's Summertime song from Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff from Fresh Prince. That is based on a 70s soul song. I had no idea till I heard it the other day on the 70s CXM channel. So I would say it's not more susceptible. I would say it's as susceptible with music, but the reason is because every generation has the same ideas and thinks that they're having that idea for the first time. But they go back and they do their own version of it because the parameters around that idea occurring to them have changed as society has changed. And Shakespeare said there's only 6 plots or stories that you can tell in the history of man. So,
well, I think
mankind.
I think in the realm that you're talking about, like in terms of sampling, it's sort of, here's something I'm going to take and then I'm going to build my own thing off of it. But I also think where it's different in film is let's do a new Lost in Space TV show. Let's do a new, the constant repetition of thing. And in my answer to it, why it's so prevalent in film and TV is money. Is that if you're going to cut an album, some albums are expensive, but for the most part, it's actually not that much money. Let's say you spent $5 million to cut an album. That would be really a ton of money.
That's a lot of money
to make an album. That would be a very inexpensive movie or TV show. And when you're going to make something for $100 million or $200 million or more, then you have big corporations and banks and investors involved. And those people are very conservative.
Yes.
They want something that's the same. And so branding and the properties and the toys and the merchandising and all that stuff has to all be on point. And that is, I think, why there's so much imitation.
But yes, and then if we could take a more kinder approach as a possibility, it's also because these original versions made people feel good.
Right.
And so you want to recreate them for a new generation.
And people are going to come see Star Wars.
Right.
Because they have all that feeling from generational.
If you do it right and which is why I think Force Awakens is the most successful of them all, even though I love Rogue One the most, because it's the one that evokes the original trilogy more authentically than any of them have done before.
And when you have your choice between, do I spend $250 million for a movie plus another couple $100 million in marketing? Yeah. Do I want to do that with a Star Wars property or this thing that someone just invented? Yeah. You're going to go with the Star Wars property.
Exactly.
All right. Next question. This is Matthew Yasso.
Yes.
So greetings. A few questions. You have 4 questions. All right. You've been a big supporter of the show, so we'll do it this time. Just pick whichever one you think is best. Well, we'll see.
Okay.
What is a movie both of you refuse to even do?
That's great.
Well, we did one of them recently. We chose not to do The Three Musketeers.
Yes.
Because I started watching it and I loved it as a kid and I wasn't liking it.
But that's not a refuse. I think what he's trying to say is one that people revere, but you don't want to do.
Oh, there was one recently that someone suggested that both of us were just like, no. Yeah. Oh, it was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The original one. No,
we're looking for a classic one. What's a classic film you don't want to do? Like you just have no interest in doing.
I don't know.
Barry Lyndon.
We talked about
Good God, I would never want to do that.
I mean, there's 5 more Kubrick movies that I'll do before I do Barry Lyndon.
I'll never do Barry Lyndon.
Yeah,
you can get a guest on. If you have
I don't want to.
I was just saying I refuse to do that stupid ass film.
Why are you breaking up with me over Barry Lyndon?
I'm allowing you to have a celebrity card and sleep with another person.
And this one's directed at me. Steve, what movie are you going to use to get back at Sean for doing Armageddon?
He already did, Matthew. Police Story. He already did.
I don't know if I could use
Well, you're not supposed to agree with it.
All right. Is there a classic film that you are surprised no one has suggested? I don't know. We get a lot of suggestions.
No one has suggested any Shakespeare.
Oh, that's true.
No one's ever suggested, which we should do, is Braun as Henry V.
Yeah.
Henry V. We should absolutely do that. Yeah. But no one suggested any of Olivier's Richard III, which won him an Oscar, and Hamlet. Yep. Those are 2 incredibly interesting films to explore.
I don't know that we've gotten. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's 1,000 great movies, and we've gotten several hundred suggestions. So I'm sure there's lots of things.
No one suggests a Sparta.
Oh, that's true. No, I think it's on the Patreon.
Is it?
It's on a Patreon pick. What are you guys going to do? When are you going to do the ultimate crossover and have Matt Nose on this show and Morris on the top 10? Well, some of that is coming soon.
Yes.
Very soon.
Yes. You'll see. You'll see.
All right.
And the other side is coming soon as well. Matt and I are talking about it more. John and Steve. This is from Joe Bozzella.
Good name.
John and Steve, I was just wondering if you guys had any advice for people who wish to become development executives at a studio one day. Thank you guys for all the content that you provide, and congrats on the milestone. He's at NYU. Go get him. Go get him, Joseph. Maybe you'll hire us one day.
Yeah, so first of all, I don't know that we're the right people to ask, but we know some executives, and all of them started as being assistants.
Yes.
So I would say come out and do the horrible job of being a Hollywood assistant at a studio, and that seems to be the path.
Even an NBC page, you can end up being development executive as well. But yes, assistant is the way to go.
Yeah.
All right.
And then watch my movie, The Assistants, available on iTunes, because it's all about Hollywood assistants.
Shameless. Shameless. All right, next.
Next question is from Ben Jones. Hey, guys, thank you for such a great podcast. It's always nice to see a new episode appear on my feed. You are welcome.
Thank you.
My question is, what film from this decade is most likely worthy of a future episode? I think we kind of already got one. Oh, you know another one that occurred to me?
Go ahead.
Her, Spike Lee. Spike Jones, I mean.
That's a great film.
I really like that movie.
I would love to dissect
Yeah, that's a really interesting one.
Yeah. Is that the only question?
Yep.
Okay.
That's it.
Taryn Baker. Hello, my name is Taryn Baker. Got that. Oh, Taryn Barker. Sorry, Taryn Barker. Recently, I rewatched Stand By Me, and it reminded me of how important friendship can be. My question is, what friendships on film had the most impact on you, and what made you think about the relationships you have with people in your own lives? Thanks, and keep up the good work.
It's an interesting question.
One leaps to mind for me. Morgan Freeman and Tim Robbins in Shawshank Redemption.
Shawshank, sure. That's a great friendship.
That's a fantastic friendship, and that ending is always very moving to me.
Yeah. That's a movie that's coming. It's one of our most requested films.
Yep.
And we definitely plan on doing it. It's just finding the right time, maybe the right guest.
Yeah, I talked about it on the Sending the Wolf podcast with Clark Wolf. It's just a phenomenal film to revisit. Yep.
I'm trying to think of friendships that I like a lot.
I like the Die Hard friendship with Reginald Vell Johnson
absolutely,
and,
it's a great one.
Bruce Willis. Yeah.
This one isn't exactly a movie friendship, but it becomes a movie friendship, and that is Kirk and Spock.
Oh,
Kirk and Spock's one of the great friendships of all time.
That's a great choice.
There's also Lethal Weapon. Those are a good one. I mean, my favorite friendship, and it is in a movie, but it's really in the books, which is, I've talked about them before, the Aubrey Maturin Master and Commander. That's my favorite friendship in all of literature.
Right.
And the one that's Russell Crowe and Vision. What's
Paul
his
Bettany.
name? Paul Bettany is great. That's why I don't know if I do well on the Schmodown. I don't have those names.
You got to have them.
Got to have those names. Yeah.
Well, I think, although it didn't start on film, I would say Kermit and Fozzie have a great friendship.
Fantastic friendship.
Wouldn't you say that?
So Kermit and Fozzie, that's the kind of thing I love, where it's just they meet each other and that's it.
Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid.
Yeah. All right. From Ryan Faquet. Which films from this decade would you eventually think become a classic? Okay, Ryan, please see other answers to this question we've had earlier. You want to do the next one?
Oh, sure. Matthew Kearns. Hi, Stephen and John. Huge fan of your work. Hello, Matthew. In fact, this is my favorite podcast. I have just 2 questions. Thank you. Who are some of your film idols, directors, actors, writers? And what is your favorite performance in a film? Thank you for taking the time to read this, Matthew Kearns.
I mean, I think we talked about so many of them, like in terms of, Orson Welles is just inescapable. Although he's also very troubling. Kubrick is inescapable and also very troubling.
Yes.
Akira Kurosawa, Spielberg.
Throw that out there. Spielberg, yes.
And then I'm also really drawn to what I would call the nice guy directors who maybe aren't of quite the same stature, but who they're not troubling, which is like Ron Howard and Rob Reiner, who, maybe not today are quite in their prime, but at the time made lots of really good movies, and everyone likes working with them, and they're nice people, Yeah,
I would throw Tarantino in there for me.
Sure. Not in the nice guy category.
No, but it's certainly as a director. But actors, so many. Burt Lancaster, Kirk Douglas, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Jimmy Stewart.
Yes, absolutely. Eddie Murphy in the early times.
Tom Hanks, Harrison Ford in his prime.
Yes. I'm sorry. Meryl Streep.
Meryl
we
Streep.
Should name some women here.
And Meryl Streep, who I believe
Hepburn.
might be the greatest actor of all time.
You think Meryl Streep? Yeah.
I mean, I just never seen her not be good.
I love Nicolas. I have a terrible love for Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
In just about anything.
Jack Nicholson, when he's doing his Nicholson thing. Yeah. There's a ton.
There's so many. Brando, of course, and James Dean as well.
Favorite performance in a film? I'll tell you one that just moved the shit out of me, and that's Anthony Hopkins in Remains of the Day.
That's a great. I would love to do that film on
Sure. Yeah, I'd do it.
That's such
I haven't seen it in a
great
while.
film. Really?
I just reread the book recently, but I haven't watched the movie in a while.
I have it saved as one not to delete on my DVR. Like I go back to it and watch those scenes.
The moment of him clutching the book to his chest is like, I'm just bawling.
Yeah.
Denzel Washington in Malcolm X
Absolutely.
is phenomenal. I love Denzel Washington, by the way.
That's another one. I would say Daniel Day-Lewis in Lincoln is borderline incredible, transcendent. And Jimmy Stewart in It's a Wonderful Life.
Absolutely.
There's a reason people love that film. It's because of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I read that or did you?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. So our next question is from Michael Hawkins. Hello, Steve and John. My question is in two parts. What movie would you want to feel that first time bliss of watching? Oh, we kind of already talked about this.
Yes.
But it was in a Patreon thing, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
I think it was. Jaws and Jurassic Park for me. And also, what movie would you want to see in theaters for its first run? And he says his answers are Jaws and The Godfather.
Ooh.
I would love to see Citizen Kane in its first run. That would be an amazing thing to go to a theater in 1941 when nobody understands what this really is and see that movie.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Lawrence of Arabia would be interesting.
Of course.
Its first run.
Yeah.
Shit.
I mean, there's certainly, because I love to take people to Lawrence of Arabia for the first time.
Yeah.
That's one that's really fun.
What's the first question? What was the first question? First part of the question?
What would you like to be able to see fresh that you've never seen before and go see it in the theater?
Seven Samurai.
Oh, yeah, that would be cool.
First time I saw that. Good God. Yeah. And I would throw in, and this is probably not a choice on anyone's mind, but Branagh's Hamlet. I saw it at the Uptown on 70 millimeter.
You went with your dad, right?
I took my dad.
Yeah,
it was and my mom. It was one of the most incredible experiences seeing a film. Incredible.
It's funny because I'm thinking now of when I first saw certain movies, my best experiences in the theater. I saw Die Hard all by myself. I'm the only person in the theater knowing nothing about the film.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the first time I remember going to see The Matrix. I remember going to see there was another one we just did, Fight Club. Like there's certain and I have such a strong memory of the first time I saw that film.
Yeah.
You know, or Enter the Dragon, the first time I saw that.
Ooh, I feel that way about Seven.
Oh, Seven.
The first time I saw Seven, I couldn't breathe afterwards.
Can I tell you a secret about Seven?
Go ahead.
The first time I saw it,
Yeah.
that's the last time I saw it.
What?
I love that. It was so hard on me, and I never watched it again.
Oh, wow.
I mean, we should do it. I know it's one you
Damn
want
right
to
we
do.
should
We're
do
going
it,
to do
yeah.
it.
I would love
it's
to
a
do it.
great movie. I haven't watched it since I saw it in the Chinese theater 20 plus years ago.
The Abyss is one I'd like to see again for the first time. I love that movie. Broke me in half, that movie.
Well, that's such a mix because the end is sort of just whichever version it is.
The director's cut is the best one.
It's even the director's cut is kind of like, oh, because that one was one where I remember seeing it. The scene with Ed Harris trying to bring her back to life is one of the most amazing scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
Both those scenes, her drowning and him bringing her back to life, are incredible.
Amazing scenes. I'm like, this movie is one of the greatest movies I've ever seen. And then it got to the end, and I went, what the fuck was that? And then I had heard about for years.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another. That's
There's
not
a
his
phantom
version.
director's cut,
And then the director's cut came out, and I went, I'm finally going to see the greatest movie of every time. And I got to the end of the director's cut, and I went, huh? And they're both flawed.
Yes.
They're both flawed movies.
Yeah. All right. Our next one?
Yeah.
All right. This one comes to us from Nathan Williams. Am I right on that?
Yep.
Hi, John/Steve. I've been a big fan of the podcast since its early episodes. Thank you, Nathan. It always brightens up my week, and you've helped me to both celebrate many of my favorite films and discover many new ones I may otherwise have never encountered. I sincerely thank you both for your time and effort, and as long as you keep recording, I will be listening. Thank you.
That's really nice.
That's very nice.
Thank you, Nathan.
My question is, what are some of your favorite novels that mean the most to you and why? Oh, what a nice left turn. Kind regards, Nathan Williams, 23 London, UK. UK. What are you saying? You take this one first.
Okay. So, I already talked about the Patrick O'Brian, Aubrey Maturin novels, those which I'm rereading now for the 5th time.
Yeah.
And I adore them. There's a long list.
Okay.
Everything from it depends on, I associate different books with different times of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So there was a huge time in my life where I discovered fantasy and science fiction, and that was Piers Anthony was what I started with, and Isaac Asimov and Ray Bradbury and all those guys, and Heinlein. And then when I discovered James Clavell, that was like a huge thing.
Yeah.
And although, to some degree I've kind of grown a little past them, but I still will go back and read Noble House and Taipan and King Rat again.
Sure.
Because I love those books. I got to say, and this is controversial, I love Ayn Rand.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I hate her conclusions about lots of stuff, but I've read The Fountainhead and Atlas Shrugged over and over and over again.
You enjoy the journey.
I do. I love those stories. And it's funny. Something came up. We just recorded Fight Club. And something came up in Fight Club where there's the difference between someone's observations and their conclusions.
Yeah.
And Ayn Rand has amazing observations about humans and how they work. And her conclusions are horrible. And so part of me reading those books, again, is arguing with her in my head.
I see. So in The Abyss, you don't mind the conclusion. But here...
I'm talking about the philosophical conclusion.
Okay.
The conclusion of the ideas.
Of the Abyss.
Fair. How about you? And Stephen King. That's I like Stephen King a lot.
I will echo Steve.
Yeah, I've read a whole bunch of Stephen King.
Even the Bachman stuff, I enjoy reading.
Sorry, I love books.
Sure, I know. That's why I wanted you to take it first.
I think J.K. Rowling is an unbelievable writer, and she is underappreciated. And not only the Harry Potter books.
How the fuck is she underappreciated? Are
Because
you nuts? They built a fucking land that I worked at.
Well, because
for her.
things that are that's true.
Stephen King doesn't have a land.
But things that are Stephen King's the same thing. That things that are popular.
Yeah.
The intelligentsia poo-poos. You know, and so Stephen King doesn't get the respect that he deserves, and J.K. Rowling doesn't get the respect that she deserves. And not only the Harry Potter books, the best textbook of planting and payoffs of anything I have ever read ever. Her ability to plant something in the first book that is going to come back later and be important, 6 books later, amazing. Okay. Also, the book she wrote under a pseudonym, the Robert Galbraith novels, the mysteries, they're great.
Okay.
All right. I'll shut up.
We good?
I mean, I could go on a long time. If I pulled out my Audible
I only
account,
have 4 or 5. So.
I own 600 plus books in Audible.
Well,
I go through the list.
What my populist friend left out was William Shakespeare.
He did not write novels.
Those are essentially novels. I know they're plays, but they're essentially novels to me. John Grisham does great work. Speaking of popular authors, Richard North Patterson.
I've never read any of them.
Oh, Richard North Patterson is great. Not James Patterson. Fuck that shit. Richard North Patterson is an incredible author. I would also throw Caleb Carr in there for The Alienist. What else? Oh, Andrew Vacas is one of my favorite authors. Andrew Vacas writes about the underbelly of New York, and he's this main character called Burke. And his wife in real life, Andrew Vacas' wife, was the assistant district attorney convicting convicting people of sex crimes. And he was ardent in exposing this kind of stuff and child trafficking and all this kind of stuff. The books are all fiction, but they're incredible explorations of this situation with these colorful cast of characters. It's phenomenal stuff. And of course Raymond Chandler.
Sure.
Chandler.
Yeah.
So. All right, who was that? Hawkins?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Is it your turn or my turn?
It's your turn.
My turn. Okay.
So Nathan Williams is what we read.
Yes, we just did Nathan Williams.
Go ahead.
Okay. Doug Joseph.
Yes.
Hi, John and Steve. Congrats on making it to the episode 100. Now on to 1,000. 1,000. Jesus.
Slow down, Chief.
All right. We're going to have to Patreon it up a bit.
Yeah.
We're going to get us to 1,000.
We got to get to 10,000 a month then.
Yeah.
Good.
My question is thus.
Well.
Do you think at some level a popular movie, even if it's not necessarily a cinematic achievement, is still doing something influential in cinema? For example, whether or not people like Transformers, it must have done something right to gross so much money with so many sequels, right? You love this guy. Maybe even just by showing giant robots and lots of actions on the screen in a fun way that no one had ever seen before. On the other hand, Blade Runner 2049, a movie that I would say was shot beautifully and awarded as such, did not make as much money as the fans had hoped it would. So even though it wasn't a popular movie, it was awarded for being a well-crafted movie.
Yeah.
Sometimes it feels like popularity and skill aren't related in cinema, or are they? If this question doesn't make sense, feel free to skip it. No, too late. But I think we live in an interesting time where the highest grossing movies now might not necessarily walk away with any awards come Oscar time. And maybe that's okay. Thanks for making my long work commute more bearable. Doug, you're welcome. I hope your commute is going well right now. Do you want to start on this one?
First of all, Doug, thank you for saying what I've been saying about Transformers for a long time. It's true, and people hate this, and the intelligentsia certainly hate this. These supposedly lovers of the good films who have Adam Sandler films on their shelves and Pauly Shore films on their shelves tell me how terrible Transformers. But they must have been doing something right for people to keep coming back multiple times over and over again until finally the balloon popped with The Last Night. And I respect that. I know not everyone's going to like those films. To me, they're guilty pleasures. I don't say they're good films. They're guilty pleasures. But I will say you're dealing in absolutes, and absolutes don't exist in the film industry. Yes, some popular films won't get nominated, but then a bunch of popular films have been nominated over the last 20 years for Best Picture. But something like The Dark Knight wasn't. So those are those things that were, or Arrival wasn't, or Blade Runner 2049 wasn't picked, and that was supposedly loved by the fans and loved by the film community, but it wasn't picked. So I would say it's always on a case-by-case basis, and it's very much about the human pop culture, what's happening within the pop culture of humanity. Because Titanic is a very popular film, got nominated for Best Picture, and that's 1997, I know, but still, it was a very popular film. Avatar, that's a very popular film that got nominated. So it happens. It's just there's no formula. There's no formula.
I'm trying to think of how best to answer the question, because of course there's a split between popular and like what is the biggest grossing movie of all time isn't necessarily the best movie of all time. This is a complicated thing, and part of it, I think someone asked us sort of the desert island question, is there are movies that I think are among the greatest of all time that I don't want to watch over and over and over again.
Yes.
And if to be a popular film, you have to be a movie that everybody wants to watch and a lot of people want to watch more than once.
Yeah.
And that's not going to be Citizen Kane. You know, everybody does not, I'm sorry, not everybody wants to go watch Citizen Kane over and over again.
How dare you?
You know, and it's not, I mean, there's some movies.
Sir, how dare you?
There's some movies that are really great that are not, you know, like 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah.
Is not a movie that someone goes,
I'm never going to see that again.
yeah. I mean, I remember seeing Leaving Las Vegas, and I walked out of the movie theater and said, I'm never going to watch that movie again. Yeah. That was great. I'm done. And so emotionally, there's reasons why those movies are. And the thing too is that with Transformers, and I've only seen the first one, that's it, is that there is something about that, a spectacle that people are drawn to. And the spectacle of the Transformers movies is off the charts amazing. And the craftsmanship of those movies, I haven't seen them all, but I won't speak to whether or not story-wise or ever, but I am certain that in terms of the execution of complicated visual effects and stunts, there's incredible skill that went into it that thrilled people. Yeah. In the same way that you can be thrilled by a roller coaster, you know? Yeah. And I'm one of the things that you and I have never wanted to do on the Cine-Files is to dismiss a genre or dismiss popular films. Mm-hmm. Like I remember I went to theater school at Berkeley, and it was a very intellectual place with a very intellectual PhD program. Yeah. And I always hated it.
Bristled.
Yeah. Because I remember how I was in a graduate course on Shakespeare, and we were analyzing Shakespeare, and this was as intellectual a course as you can imagine. And it was like, how do we look at Hamlet in a neo-Marxist perspective? Oh, Jesus. Or how do we look at this as a postmodern, dissertation on feminism? Or how? Then this is what the discussion was. I remember we were talking about Hamlet, and I said, "Well, Hamlet's a revenge story. It's like Death Wish." And everyone in the class like looked at me like I was a scumbag. And I'm going, listen, Shakespeare is popular entertainment. Yes. The groundlings came to watch people get killed and sword fights and big body jokes. Right. And it's like, it wouldn't have succeeded. We think of it as this intellectual thing, and that is exactly wrong. I am not interested in intellectual entertainment. Yep. I'm only interested in good entertainment. So for me, if it's popular and it's really good, I'm fine, you know?
Well, but you are interested in intellectual. I would say you should amend that.
I'm an intellectual.
You like intellectual if it's good.
If it's good.
Right. Don't just do it to do it. Don't be turning your brain into a penis and masturbating onto screen for 2 hours.
Hold on.
I'm just saying. But
I'm going to put that somewhere. Don't turn your brain into a penis and masturbate
on screen for 2 hours. Yeah. But like, so this is, and I think you bring up a great point with Shakespeare. That's the thing. That's what was the key for me. Because I always loved Shakespeare, but I could never get it. Yeah. But I knew I loved it, but I couldn't get it. And it wasn't until I went and studied in London with Selena Cadell of the RSC, and she said, the problem with you Americans is you think Shakespeare is this highfalutin intelligent. It's not. It is exactly what you said. It was made for the lower classes. And if you're listening to us and you've been afraid to look at Shakespeare in this way, go back and look. It is written for the lower classes because that's who was paying the money. The groundlings who were on the ground watching this stuff, and you had to throw all the... Yes, do they deal with highfalutin ideas?
Yeah, it's not that there's not deep stuff
but
in
it's
there.
the human condition.
Well, to me, this is something, again, this is what Hoover taught me, is that if you don't entertain, you can't educate.
Right.
Is that you must entertain first. I have to get you to get your butt in the seat at the theater and enjoy it. And if you try to, if I need to have a PhD in Roman history in order to watch your movie and understand what's happening, your movie sucks.
Yeah.
You know, and particularly like I have a fair amount of knowledge. And if I walk in going, I don't understand, I don't think I know enough to know this,
Right.
then really that's nobody's gonna. I mean, I'm not saying I'm the smartest person in the world,
but I
like,
think those are the knocks against Malick's films, Terrence Malick's recent films. People are just like, "What the hell am I watching?" And me, I'm having a great time because I know I'm going in to see a stream of consciousness movie,
right?
And so that's what it is. But some people really can't connect to it.
Yeah.
So,
All right,
Chris King is next.
Yeah.
Yes. Hey, Steve and John. First, I just want to quickly say how much I love the Cine-Files. I've learned so much about filmmaking and film history from the two of you, and your chemistry each and every episode, along with so many great guests. It's consistently entertaining.
We do have excellent chemistry.
Yes, we do. Thank you. Thank you so much for brightening up my life for an hour or two every week or longer. It's so nice to know that I have this podcast to rely on even when times are tough. Hey, that's awesome, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah.
My question is, if you each could break the 10-year rule and choose one great film from the past year or two to cover on the podcast, what would it be and why? Thanks again, guys, and keep on being awesome.
I think we could have done it.
Yeah, my answer, I think, is even more so now, Blade Runner 2049.
Yeah.
That would be a 4-hour podcast.
Yeah.
I think.
And I would want to edit it down because it was too long.
It would be 2 parts. What's your answer again?
I said Avengers: Infinity War.
That's the number one answer.
I don't know.
Over the last 2 years? Well, you have time to amend the statement.
I guess we might get the question again.
All right, yeah, I have a feeling we will. Go ahead.
All right. So Billy Rock. Good name. Good morning. Thank you so much for such a well-produced and in-depth podcast about some iconic films. Keep up the amazing work. You have a listener for life. Well, thanks, Billy. Question. My roommate and I have finished going through all of Kubrick's and Cronenberg's films and are going through Lynch currently. Oh, man, you're going out there.
Jesus.
Of those three, who is your favorite? And do you have any suggestions for a female director to profile after Lynch? We are leaning towards Agnes Varda.
Wow. Agnes Varda.
So my favorite of those three is probably Kubrick.
Sure.
I'm not the biggest Lynch fan.
Neither am I, which is why we haven't done any.
Yeah. I mean, I remember being completely fucked up by Blue Velvet. I remember having two completely different experiences on Wild at Heart.
Yeah.
Where I saw it one time and thought it was the funniest movie I'd ever seen, and saw it another time and was horribly depressed. But I'm not the biggest Lynch guy. Videodrome fucked my shit up.
Oh, yeah.
There's obviously a lot of great Cronenberg, but I haven't gone back to Cronenberg the way I've gone back to Kubrick. So I guess Kubrick would be my favorite.
Kubrick is my answer, but I would throw The Fly in there.
Yeah, The Fly's great.
The Fly is incredible for the time, and it still holds up. With Lynch, I agree with Steve. Although Straight Story is a really cool Lynch film.
I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
I think I would really like it.
It's a really good film. Most of the time, I can't relate to Lynch's films because it's a mentality that I don't have. And I respect that. Some people love David Lynch films and love what he does. To me, and this is my own opinion, and I'm not trying to be mean about it, to me, it feels like he walks that line of pretentiousness all the time in his movies. But I love Wild at Heart because it was what I sensed was something that wasn't taking itself too seriously.
Yeah.
It was insane. Blue Velvet doesn't do it for me. Mulholland Drive doesn't do it for me.
Yeah, it didn't do it for me.
Lost Highway doesn't do it for me. So all I can tell you is I respect the fact that these three directors really connect to you guys. And yeah, Agnes Varda is an interesting place to explore, female director-wise. I don't know who else I would recommend to you. Obviously, Bigelow. Obviously, there's some other ones, but like I don't know if there's anything that would fit the realm of what you're exploring.
I feel bad, but The Kids Are All Right, and what's her name? Damn it!
Oh, I don't know.
Hold on.
You gonna look it up? Oh.
Sure.
The Kids Are All Right. Although that film was controversial too, because a lot of people didn't like the way the ending went down.
Oh, Lisa Cholodenko.
Okay.
So she'd be a good, interesting director to kind of follow too.
I think Jane Campion is a possibility.
Jane Campion, yeah.
Sofia Coppola, sure, if you want to dance into that realm.
Well, this has been a problem.
Yeah.
There's not enough female directors
Absolutely.
with long enough careers. And this is also a problem, I think. You and I are two guys, you know, and I think that's one of the weaknesses of the show. I mean, not the weakness of the show, but let me pull that back a little bit.
Yeah.
you and I are two guys, and we look at guy films. That's sort of our natural instinct, is movies that relate to us.
Yes. Okay. I would also offer you guys one non-female director to keep into that realm is Luis Buñuel.
Oh, Buñuel's great.
If you haven't explored Buñuel, Buñuel's kind of in that realm of Kubrick and Lynch and all that. It's really interesting shit. All right, James Kang is the next one. Am I correct?
Yes.
This is a long one, so maybe we'll get to. Hi, Stephen John, Patreon here. Thank you, James. I have to say, first of all, you guys have the best content and material on movies anywhere I could find. Thank you. I have so many podcasts I listen to, but the content on the Cine-Files are just what I need to hear for even movies I have absolutely no interest in. You somehow make it something I would want to watch. Now, to my question. I've always wondered how directors factor into a final product of a film when there is talk about studio meddling. I look at a movie like X-Men Orange's Wolverine, Fantastic Four, and Alien 3, where they are regarded as horrible films and the blame comes on the directors, when it was clear that the director didn't have final say to how the film turns out. Would we want to blame the director, or can we safely blame the studios for interfering? What's your thoughts?
So what I would say...
So you're saying how much can we safely blame directors for a failed film, or how much can we blame studios for how much they wanted to change a film?
So the first thing I would say is that movies are extremely delicate.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just a reaction shot that made all the difference in the scene. You know, it's a little thing that made you feel something about this character that you wouldn't feel otherwise. Or the way a line works, or the way, you know, whether or not you're in a long lens or a wide lens, or little things. And so the first thing I would say is that it's very hard to know why the film failed. And there's also a lot of Sunday morning quarterbacking that goes on to go like, oh, well, this is where they messed up. Well, it's hard. You weren't there.
Right.
And so I don't think we usually can know for sure. Obviously, it's the studio's fault. My tendency is to side with the artist against the business. You know, is that having been in a lot of meetings with executives, having heard a lot of stories of people in meetings with executives, this business is crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that there are people who go onto the set and think they know how to talk to an actor, or they take a cut out of someone's hands and think they understand where we're supposed to go, in general, I think that's a problem. But, you know, there are movies that a really great director had total control over, and that movie turned out bad. Yeah. You know? So it's hard to say.
Well, you know, and I think that's the answer. See, sometimes you guys ask these questions and you want black and white answers, and there's no such thing in a subjective medium, because it's such a collaborative process that anybody along the way can either save a film or destroy a film. And sometimes it's a bunch of little decisions that end up destroying the film overall in the big picture. And that's right. What Steve was saying is correct. Like I've seen development, or I know of stories from development executives where they just have to change something so they can lean over to their girlfriend who's 20 years younger than them or 30 years younger than them and say, I put that in, baby, I put that in. And there are other executives who actually want to save a picture because the director is too far off the reservation and doesn't understand, and is too far, it's too enamored with their own intelligence to understand that what they're creating is a film that's no one's going to go see and it's not going to make any money. And I hate to break it to you, this is the film business, not the film artistry. It is the film business. And so the business is about making money. Yes, do you want to make good films? Absolutely. But you also want to make money. And so you can't just make a bunch of artistic films, as Blade Runner 2049 will prove to you, and expect to stay alive.
Well, and, you know, you need to get to the money to make your movie.
Exactly.
So you're going to go, you know, there's two basic styles of being an executive. One style is to say, I'm going to ask the really talented people what they want to make.
Yeah.
The other style is, I'm going to put out into the world, I want to make a thing like this, and have talented people come to me and we pick one to make it. It's become more the latter.
Yes.
You know, particularly as things are the way, well, here's why it's changed. It had become more the latter in network television and with the big properties in movies. And where it's changed is Netflix and Amazon and Hulu.
Yeah.
Because they've more done the former, and said, hey, you're talented. What are you interested in doing?
Yeah.
And to me, I'd rather have the flawed, pure artistic vision most of the time than have the corporate top-down, this is what you're going to do. But the exception to that is the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
You know, that is clearly run by executives.
Yes.
You know,
but they hire
talented people,
and the directors are involved in the collaborative process.
Yep.
I think that's why they've
found it really
figured it out.
Balance,
Yeah.
From Graham Butler.
All right.
Hey chaps, Flying Badger on Twitter. My name elsewhere, Schmoville, etc.
Oh yes.
Question: are there any Hollywood, in quotes, or film industry in general, stereotypes or tropes that you have found to be false? I.e., from outside looking in, there's this presumption that all successful actors live in nice houses, everyone has a drug dealer on speed dial, oh crap, I've turned into a Nickelback song. Weak comedy aside, question stands, how much is romanticized?
A lot.
I think all those cliches exist, but I think all those people are not those cliches.
No, right.
Yeah.
Yes, good point. There are some people that do have drug dealers on speed dial. There are some people who are successful and live in nice houses, but not everyone, because this town is full of people who are trying to maintain the status once they get there. Getting there is tough, and it's a lot of sacrifice and some luck and a lot of hard work. And once you get there, there is a terrible fear of it being taken away from you overnight. And so there's an obsession that where drugs comes in, or prescription pills, or what have you. There are other people who rely on yoga, rely on working out, rely on these other things, but they also have an entitlement. Absolutely, there is an entitlement in this town. Not everyone does it, but when it does happen, you're really in shock at it. I have a friend of mine who works on the red carpets, and she does junkets, and she told me about a story with a particular actress, a third-generation actress. I'm not going to say any names, but she was doing a junket in Europe, and she was walking out of the junket. She was done, and she did not want to walk into a room full of journalists, so she had all the journalists moved into a bathroom. And if you've ever been to London or Paris, you know that those bathrooms are not spacious. And so they all had to get up after they got over their disbelief and had to squeeze into a small bathroom so that this third-generation actress could walk through that room and not feel and communicate or talk to or have any interaction with a journalist.
Wow.
And that's the level of entitlement that I'm talking about. And some people have like only purified water in their house to shower in, not just to drink. So I think it all bleeds from who you are as a person, your entitlement. And if you are successful for whatever reason, then that entitlement comes out. You know, there's a story just came out with Khloe Kardashian, who flew her hairstylist in from LA to Cleveland because her roots weren't right for a shoot. And so if you can afford it, you can be entitled.
My roots aren't right for this recording. So I would say, like, every horrible, crazy, insane cliche that you've heard of about Hollywood,
Yeah.
there is worse here.
Oh, yes.
I've experienced so much insanity, but that doesn't mean you can go, oh, you're a movie star, you must therefore be like this.
Right.
That is not what like, we had Joe Mantegna on the podcast. He is the most lovely, down-to-earth, completely mellow, good guy you could imagine. And in fact, most of my experiences, having met a few bigger stars, have been mostly like that.
Right.
And the other thing that happens is that a lot of times the story that you hear about the person that needs this thing, that didn't really come from them. That actually came from somewhere else.
Right.
I don't know if I told this story before. We worked with, on the first movie I wrote, there's an actor named Stanley Camel who was in it. Mm-hmm. And Stanley Camel was in Monk, and he was one of those guys you saw a lot.
Yep.
So he was our big star, when we did this film. And so we were all staying at this crappy motel, and all the actors were there and all the crew was there. This is in North Carolina. And we put him at the nicer hotel, and he showed up and he was really upset. And he said, I don't want to be here all alone.
Yeah.
I want to be hanging out with all you guys. And then he told this story. And the story was, I don't think I've told this on the Cine-Files before. So the story was, he shows up at a movie. It's in the middle of nowhere, like in Arizona, 150 miles from the nearest small town. And he gets to his trailer, because all actors have to have a trailer, because that's part of the union rules. That's not because they're snobs. Yeah. That's what they have to have. And the production coordinator or crafty or someone comes to him and says, Mr. Camel, welcome. Is there anything you'd like? And he goes, oh, I kind of like ginger ale. And they go, okay. And the next day they go to the local store, and there's just like one store, and they get him a case of Canada Dry ginger ale. And there he walks into his trailer the next morning, and there's this case of Canada Dry ginger ale. And Stanley Camel turns to Crafty and he says, oh, Canada Dry. I only drink Schweppes ginger ale. And he was making a joke because he thought that was hilarious.
Yeah.
But they didn't know he was making a joke. And so they go to the PA and they say, Mr. Camel wants Schweppes. We have to get him Schweppes. And so that guy drove 150 miles to go get Schweppes ginger ale because they didn't have it, because they're out in the middle of nowhere. The next day he shows up and Mr. Camel, we got you the Schweppes ginger ale, and they tell the story, and he felt horrible.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's, it's like if Tom Cruise says, I really like pastrami from this particular place, then it goes to his agent and it goes to his manager, and they put it as a rider on the contract that Tom Cruise will only eat pastrami at this place. And then the rumor goes out, I don't know what Tom Cruise likes pastrami at all, but the rumor goes out that, oh, he's so difficult. And it's like, that didn't come from him.
Right.
We don't know, and the other thing too is when you get coddled and pampered constantly for 10 or 15 years, that becomes how the normal world is supposed to work.
You just get used to it.
You get used to it.
Yeah.
And so you naturally assume that all of these things, you don't really realize the cost of what's being done.
And I always find that people that want to be the most pampered are the most insecure. And that's usually what I find. So when you hear stories like that, just feel pity for that person.
Yeah.
Don't judge them in terms of a negative. Just feel pity for them. All right, Martin Windigger is next, I think. Hey, John and Steve, I have kind of a 3-part question. Steve, have you ever thought about competing in the Schmodown, Steve?
I've thought about it. Yes.
Yes. Great. What would your stage name be?
The Professor.
Yes, I agree with that. Do you think you could take on the Outlaw? Slow the fuck down. Martin. Martin, stop it. Thanks, and keep up the good work, Dennis. Oh, his name is Dennis. What is going on here? All right, yes.
Can I take on the Outlaw?
Do you think you could take on the Outlaw?
Do you want my honest assessment?
Of course I want an honest assessment.
My feeling is that if we were in a general trivia contest with history and science and literature, I think I'd have a damn good shot against the Outlaw. In a movie one, where I worry about it, first of all, my name recall isn't that great. And I haven't watched a lot of movies since my son was born 7 years ago. So like and I don't listen to pop music, and I don't listen to, so I think I would, I mean, if I was on the show, I'd go into training. There would be Rocky music played, and I would start doing the work.
Maybe we'll play each other like as we're watching a Schmodown, and I'm not in the audience. Like I won't watch that particular Schmodown, and we'll play each other maybe as a patron.
As a patron, sure.
That would be fun.
Sure.
I'm down with that.
So I think I have a chance, but I think the odds would be with the Outlaw.
Okay. I appreciate you saying this. Very kind of you.
I'm not being kind.
You're not. Go ahead.
Well, it wouldn't be as meaningful a compliment if I was just being kind.
Well, all right, fair.
From Parker Holler.
Yeah, you're only going to get one of these, Parker. You don't get to ask two.
All right. Hey, John and Steve, it's going to be lightning round. Oh. Can you remember the first movie that you saw that made you cry?
The Champ.
Rocky.
Oh, really?
It's funny.
Both boxing films.
Both boxing films.
Yep.
Was black and white.
Citizen Kane. No, probably It's a Wonderful Life.
I think mine probably was like a Shirley Temple or Abbott and Costello or something like that. Or maybe It's a Wonderful Life. Silent film.
Nosferatu. I was 7 years old.
Jesus Christ.
That's why that film scares the shit out of me.
Mine was Charlie Chaplin, but I don't remember which one.
Oh, nice.
R-rated.
World According to Garp.
Wow, interesting. In the theater, it's one we did here was Excalibur. I saw it with my mom.
My parents took me. They thought it was Robin Williams from Mork and Mindy.
Yeah.
We show up and it's certainly not any of that.
Some guy gets his bit off.
And the transgender stuff.
First movie that had nudity. I'm not sure. It might be Animal House, which is also R-rated, but I saw it home.
It might be Trading Places with Jamie Lee Curtis when she takes her top off and those incredible boobs come out.
Good one.
Breasts, rather.
Your first movie date. We went to see, what was it? I don't remember what the movie was, which shows how stressed out I must have been about the date. Yeah, I don't know. This is the way. Okay, so this is a good story though. Yeah. So while you think, I'm going to tell this story. So as you've heard my trials and travails of being in love with Karen long before she would date me, we had hung out and I said, hey, let's go to a movie together, which took a lot of guts for me because I hadn't asked a lot of girls out.
Right.
And this is 1988. Okay. We started dating in end of 91. And the movie I wanted to go see was The Little Mermaid. I said, let's go to The Little Mermaid. It's sweet. And it's, I was like, this is a good, and Karen said, I've seen that 3 times already. Let's go to see The War of the Roses.
Oh my gosh.
It's the worst possible date movie of all time.
Yes.
Which we went to see, and I tried to buy the tickets. I did buy the tickets. And then she said, well, I'll have to buy the popcorn, which I thought was really cool. Yeah. And to her, it was not a date. We were 2 friends going to a movie. So it was no date at all. She was shocked when I said, like, no, this was supposed to be a date. She's like, oh, no, it's not. Yeah.
Wow. Maybe clarify that, but they worked out. So I don't remember. I know that I went on movie dates a lot. I don't remember because I would go like chaperoned to movie dates, but I don't remember which one. Maybe Moving Violations is my earliest memory with the
sure
the Bill Murray's brother film. I remember going with some girl. I can't remember her name.
Does Parker get another one? Let's see what it
Maybe,
is.
because that was a quick one.
Yeah.
Hello, John and Steve. I'm from John's country of origin. Oh, shit. You're from Woodbridge, Virginia? Well, Parker, I shut my mouth. Wait, Holler. Are you related to Keith and Kevin Holler? Because I went to high school with those guys. So if you are related to them, then damn.
That one of them's his dad.
Maybe. That's insane. Tell Keith or Kevin I said hi. I'll probably see them at the reunion later this year. I wanted to ask you guys what the process of moving to Los Angeles was like. It's something I'm dying to do in the future, especially for John, who is LA different. How is LA different from the DMV area, which is DC, Maryland, Virginia area? Thank you guys for your hard work and passion. Parker.
Well, I can't speak to how it's different from the DMV area. I moved to come to film school.
Oh, you're from California.
I'm from California. So I moved from Northern California and Southern California is completely different.
Absolutely.
Very, very different. In fact, and the weird thing is that people in San Francisco hate Los Angeles.
Yeah.
People in Los Angeles don't hate San Francisco.
No.
And people, they're like, oh, that's a nice town.
Yeah. We really are.
Nobody hates, yeah.
Why would you hate us?
And it was a lot of culture shock for me going to USC, having come from Berkeley. That was actually because I went to UC Berkeley for undergrad and I went to USC for grad school. Yeah. And that is a lot of difference between those two. That was a big culture shock. Figuring out like your way around LA. Because LA, you need to find the places in a way that you don't have to figure out the places in New York or San Francisco or Berkeley or that was my biggest, like, it took a few years to kind of figure out where the things are that I liked and find my group. Once I found, like, by 2001, when I started to meet you and all your friends, it's like, oh, I have a big family here now. Mm-hmm. Then it was okay.
What would I say? Yes, because I mean, I was coming out of the military.
Oh, right.
To go back to college. So I'd gone to Florida State, but I had acquired some friends down in Florida State. And then I moved cross country with my dad. My dad actually drove me. Still the greatest trip I've ever taken in my life with my dad. Anyone, to be honest with you. And we drove cross country from Virginia to LA, and it was awesome. And it took us, 5 or 6 days to do it. The biggest culture shock is how much people don't give a shit about your feelings in this town. And how much everybody,
that's a big one.
Everybody wants to get what they want in this town, and can be one of the most cutthroat towns in the city, or in the world rather, because people want to achieve success and they will step on anyone, they will hurt anyone, they will ignore anyone, they will disregard anyone in order to achieve that success and still think they're a good person. And that's the difference, I would say. And it's not across the board, obviously, but you meet a lot of people like that who are driven to satisfy this hole inside themselves with success or fame and never find it, like in terms of filling that hole. And so they treat people like shit on the way up and they don't think twice about it. And it's that's the difference. Growing up in Virginia, Southern Virginia, people very courteous, people respectful, people very like aware of each other. But at least in my experience growing up, there were bad people, sure, but it wasn't like across the board. But when you come out here, it is. And you learn to, which is why I hold on to my friends the way I do, because we don't treat each other for the most part that way. We're very aware of each other. And we have our own issues in dealing with each other, but it isn't like that.
Can I add something to this?
Sure.
One of the things, because you bring up such a great point, and one of the things that I found so shocking, and it took me years, if ever, to really figure out how to deal with it, is what I'll call it is the difference between sort of the New York mindset and the LA mindset. And what it is that New York, when something's fucked up, they'll say, it is fucked up.
Yes.
LA, what they'll do is nobody wants to burn bridges. So people are really nice.
Yeah.
All the time. Oh, I love this idea. Oh, you're going to do great. Oh, I can take your script and do this with it. Oh, I know this person. I'm going to set up a meeting with this. Oh, this is $1 million idea. I heard that so much.
Yep.
And so you get your hopes up. That's what's really hard about here is that nobody wants to really say no to you. They want to say maybe to you. And like agents will do a thing where they'll do what's called a pocket deal.
Yes.
Which basically means I'm not going to sign a contract with you or represent you, but if you happen to book something for yourself, then I'll do the deal and then I'll be your agent, And so what it is they give you the feeling like this is going to be something when in fact it's all going to be on you and they're going to abuse you or reject you or hurt you at any time.
Yeah.
It is so brutal. And to the point where I'd much rather have someone say to me, nope, I don't like it. That's easy. I understand how to deal with that.
Yeah.
But the nice, sweet, positive bullshit. And what's hard is at each stage, these people want to believe that it's true.
Yeah.
It's not just that they're lying to you. They are hoping that your project or your personality is going to be the thing.
Yeah.
But, they're also hoping that 28 other people are going to be that thing.
Exactly.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's hard to feel special in this town.
No.
It's hard to feel unique in this town. So you just put your head down and you work, and that's at some point I hit that wall, which is why I didn't want to do it anymore. Voiceover, I find so much more joy doing voiceover than I ever did on camera work. People are more supportive in that community. People are just more positive. And doing this work that I do now, it's great, but there's remnants of that still there where people want to achieve success. People hate. There are people that I work with in this industry who hate that I'm in the position that I'm in because they want to be in that position. They don't think I deserve to be in that position. They think they know more than I do. And so they're upset that I'm in this position. So you deal with that. And so it never ends.
Yeah.
And all of that is born from their insecurity and their need to feel
powerful,
or if they have the job, then somehow it validates their knowledge of film, and it can be so overwhelming because I'm a sensitive guy, which I really fucking wish I wasn't, but I am a sensitive guy, so I can tell in the way they speak to me. I can tell in tone of voice because I'm an actor. It's my job to read people. I can tell when someone is a friend, and I can tell when someone's just a contact because they want something from me or they want to be connected to what I do and they want to talk shit about me behind my back.
Well, for me, it's like I'm interested in the craft and the work. That's what I like. I like how are we going to do a really good one of those?
Yeah.
And what I really don't like is networking and talking and content, all that stuff. I just find it repulsive to me. And having to talk yourself up and bullshitting and being nice to a person who doesn't know anything. And I just like I'm bad at it. I'm not interested in it. Yeah. And that is so it's like you say, put your head down and do the work. I've done that too much.
Yeah.
Like my mistake was I went, well, no one's giving me a job. I'm going to go do an internet series, which is what we did. Siren is one of the first internet series ever done.
Right.
I've done just so much on my own. And then I'd finish a project and go, what do I do? Who do I give this to? Yeah. And the answer is nobody. And then I would go do more. And that's a nice thing about the podcast is that it's pretty much you and I just doing the work, but we also have this audience out here, which is all of you guys who want to listen to it.
Absolutely.
Without having to deal with all of the Hollywood types.
Yes.
It's just us and you.
Yeah.
It's not a network and studio executives and bank people and money people and contract people. Right. I don't have to care about any of that.
Not yet.
Not
till we blow up.
Yeah. And our next question is from Anthony Gonzalez. He says, who is your favorite athlete turned actor? There's more questions here too.
Now, do you mean famous athlete or do you mean previously was an athlete and they became an actor?
Anthony does not define his terms. So
this is really tough.
My criteria would be that it has to be a real athlete, not like he played, basketball in high school or something.
So he was famous for something else in another field and then made the transition into
his next question is actually, who is your favorite artist, musician turned actor? So I think we can kind of get into all these.
Jesus, I'm a little, okay. Do you have an answer?
So the first one that occurs to me, and I don't think he's a great actor, but I have a love of Jim Brown.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Just because we talked about Dirty Dozen.
Right.
And then there's also, we talked about Rocky, Apollo Creed. What is his name? Just jump out of
Carl Weathers?
Carl Weathers.
Right.
He's another athlete.
But he wasn't like famous for anything athletic-wise.
Yeah, he played football for USC.
Oh, okay. Listen, before the unfortunate stuff, I would say OJ because he's really funny in the Naked Gun movies, but unfortunately he's a terrible person now. So I go.
There's The Rock.
The Rock. That's my answer. Kaboom. End of conversation. That is absolutely my favorite athlete turned actor. Thank you for jogging my brain on that one. Yeah, absolutely The Rock. That's my number one choice. What an idiot I am that should have leapt to my brain so quickly. But yeah, he is so good. Not just in the action stuff. Watch Snitch. If you haven't seen Snitch yet, go rent that or watch it. Him and John Bernthal are incredible. It's a good dramatic piece.
And he is one charming, cool motherfucker.
Yes, he is.
He just is. He just, there's something like, and I remember when you knew who he was because I'm not a wrestler guy, but when he first came on the scene, I'm like, oh, is this muscle bound?
Right.
And it was sort of, there's the tradition of the Arnold moving forward muscly guys. And I'm like, oh, he wants to be the next one of those. I'm like, no, he's his own thing.
He is.
He's great. I like him a lot.
And he's grown. Like went through stages, because when he first popped in, he was a big wrestler guy doing things.
Right.
Then he lost weight, thinned out, thinking he was going to do these other roles that were more serious, because he was told if he's going to be that big, it's going to limit what he can do. So you see him in Be Cool, that sequel to Get Shorty, and he's thinner in that.
Right.
But you will also see his comedic timing and his chops, which are so great. And then he leaned into getting bigger with the Fast and Furious stuff, and he figured out that people would follow him as he got older. They'd follow him because he's got the size. Because he's got the size, they want to come see his movies.
Well, and I think he found his voice, and we found him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, of like going, oh, I actually really, I mean, even like, you know, Moana, you know, like,
oh, yeah.
He's great.
Yeah, so
he's
good
great.
at
Artist, musician, just like David Bowie.
Okay. Mick Jagger, not so much.
There's a ton, I'm sure, that I am not.
Chris Christopherson, I really think is a legitimate choice. I think he's been great in a number of movies, and especially the Blade movies. Or if you've seen him in some of his '70s stuff, he's actually really good. And
I mean, there is Barbara Streisand, but she's an actress. I mean, she's clearly a great singer,
right?
But she's also was a Broadway actress.
Yeah, so it's around the same time. I think it's the same thing.
Do you have any foreign film recommendations? That's too big a question, but get your Kurosawa, your Buñuel, your Antonioni, I mean, the list will go on and
Cinema
on.
Paradiso.
Yeah, there's tons of okay. If you had to choose and could only do one of Dances with Wolves, I already know what your answer is going to be, or The Last Mohicans as an episode, what would you choose?
Last of the Mohicans, which we should totally do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Last Mohicans is much your movie more than mine.
Very much so.
I've never been the biggest Michael Mann guy, but I really like Last of Mohicans. It's really good. Dances with Wolves is problematic.
Very problematic.
I adored it when I saw it in the theater.
Sure.
I loved it.
It's 92.
Yeah, and you know, there's certainly a lot to talk about with it. Mm-hmm. It's a good movie. I didn't think it would be that high on my list.
Yeah, I rewatched about half an hour of it the other day, and when you get past that opening scene, which is really fantastic, then the film starts to veer into this other territory, and it's not as symbolic now as it was in '92. And I think it was symbolic for its time, but it doesn't hold up still.
Yeah,
for
I don't
me.
think it holds up as well.
Yeah,
I watched it a few years ago.
Yeah,
not that I think it's a bad movie.
No, not at all. It's a movie of its time, though.
John, when you're watching a film that you've always enjoyed, that you know is flawed, is there something that you personally are able to forgive more so than something else?
Yes. And I think that probably stands for a lot of people who love Breakfast at Tiffany's. They have to forgive the Mickey Rooney sequence.
Oh, if
you're gonna love them, and people crow about how much they love this movie.
Yeah,
Breakfast at Tiffany's. So, yes, I have movies that I overlook certain things, and then they start, and the number has increased over the last 2 or 3 years with being more aware of these gender dynamics and gender relations. Being more aware of that as I watch movies from different times. It becomes something that's like glaring, like neon glaring, that I never noticed before, or just glossed over in my mind that it wasn't a big deal. To watch now in retrospect, I definitely have to make certain allowances, and it all depends on the movie, because sometimes that is the crux of the film, and I can't like the film because of it. But something like Animal House, I can still forgive it because it is funny, but some of the humor is really uncomfortable if you break it down honestly,
today,
right?
Yeah,
today, especially.
So I'm glad you answered this question first, because it gave me time to divide my answer into categories.
Sure. Oh,
You
wow.
know that I like to divide things into categories.
Sure, yeah.
So what I would say is this: first of all, it depends on the genre of the film. So if I'm watching a kung fu film, or if I'm watching a dumb comedy, or if I'm watching, my standards are different. Like what I'm there for is different.
Right.
I'm not a big horror guy, but the same is true of horror. It's like, you forgive some dumb dialogue or some other stuff if you're going to have the scares that you want and the jump scare and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that would be category 1. 2 is, one of the big problems is, where was I at the time that I saw it? There are movies that I love, and I acknowledge as I've grown older that, like, there are some problems with this film.
Right.
But I can't not be the kid that I was when I first saw it.
Sure.
And then the last category I think is very much what you're talking about, which is, I don't want to reject things because they're dated.
Yeah.
You have to be able to turn your brain into a different state and go, okay, I am understanding the things that are problematic about this, but I'm also appreciating it for what it was and when it was.
Yeah. I think, and especially the gay jokes and gay stuff, that really now is stands out powerfully when you watch 80s movies. The casualty of certain slurs in the 80s towards homosexual
just
people.
perfectly normal, acceptable jokes to be made in the mainstream.
It's fascinating. It really is.
We've improved.
Yes,
to some degree.
We've improved. All right. Our next question comes from Nikki Diboulet. Is that correct? Ndeke Boulet. All right. Jesus, these are a lot of these too. First off, congratulations, John and Steve, on the 100th episode. That's awesome. Maybe they come up too late, but here are 3 questions I submit for this episode. What is the worst acting job of a normally really great actor or actress? I think it's Jamie Foxx in Spider-Man 2. He was so bad that it made me uncomfortable watching it. He owes Andrew Garfield a franchise because I am one of those who liked Garfield as Spider-Man. What is the worst acting job of a
first of all, I agree that's not a good one.
Yes.
Second of all, I liked Andrew Garfield as Spider-Man. It was fine.
Sure.
Third of all, I hate that movie. I think it's terrible, and I think it's terrible for way more reasons than Jamie Foxx.
It really ruined the Gwen Stacy story, which we finally got to see.
Well, the whole plot didn't make sense. Yeah, I mean, just like I don't understand what the hell's going on.
Peter Parker's dad's a spy now.
That's worst acting performance. Nothing's jumping in at the top of my head right now.
For me, Robert De Niro in Frankenstein. Jesus Christ, is he terrible in that movie? And I love De Niro to pieces, but that movie is ridiculous, and he is terrible in it.
It's. I mean, what it is it's where people who are just, you shouldn't be playing this part. This was not for you.
Yeah, Pacino and Jack and Jill is a thing too.
Oh, I didn't see that.
You should never see that.
It honestly, it never occurred to me to see it. Nothing's jumping into my head.
No, nothing with Meryl Streep or Katharine Hepburn or.
No, is there something where Meryl Streep is not good?
Well, I know. I'm just throwing something out, throwing ideas out. Well, yeah. I mean, She-Devil. She couldn't possibly be good in She-Devil with Roseanne Barr.
Did you see it?
No, I did not.
I didn't either.
I'm just guessing.
I'm sure it was a terrible movie.
I feel like I'm on the right side of this, though.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for you.
Really? Okay. That's a cop-out, but I'll accept it. All right, the second question. Who is the best combo of a great actor/big star? Because I noticed that a lot of big stars have charisma and on-screen presence, but not a wide acting range. Think Harrison Ford, Alain Delon, The Rock. What? They all have great acting range. Are you crazy? I'm not saying they're bad actors, although the jury is still out on The Rock's acting skills. It actually isn't out, but overall, their careers consisted of being their awesome selves on screen. And on the other hand, you have incredibly gifted actors who will never be stars like Michael Sheen, Don Cheadle, or Sally Hawkins. My answer is, of course, the obvious ones like Meryl Streep, Pacino, and De Niro, but also Jennifer Lawrence, Brad Pitt, Nicole Kidman, Will Smith, and Denzel Washington. This is interesting. Combo of a great actor/big star.
So I think I'm trying to think of how to. So I agree with all the people that they listed as those are great actors and big stars.
Yeah.
I think where it gets weird is the person that you think of as a star.
Yeah.
Like who is a star? Because Meryl Streep is a brilliant actress, and it is her brilliantness that has made her a star.
Right.
The answer for me would be Tom Cruise. Because Tom Cruise is arguably the biggest star.
Yes.
Or has been the biggest star for the longest time in Hollywood. And man, that guy can act.
Yeah.
And so and the reason I put it with him is we all know Meryl Streep can act.
Right.
That is not a surprise.
Right.
When Tom Cruise does the thing in Tropic Thunder, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or you see him in Magnolia, or you see him, it's like this guy has range that he doesn't use a lot of the time.
He doesn't get a chance to use it.
He doesn't get a chance to use it. So that's sort of, like I actually don't know how big a range Brad Pitt has.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's good. I don't know.
This is tough for me because I have to admit, Julia Roberts. I do not like Julia Roberts.
Right.
But aesthetically and objectively, I have to say she's a big star.
Oh, sure.
And I have to say she can act. She won an Oscar for Brockovich. She's really good in Brockovich.
Yep.
And it's my own personal taste that I don't like her.
Right.
But it's not because she's not good and she's not, an accomplished actress.
Right.
But she is that combo of big star.
Like to me,
people could argue Keanu.
So what I said when we did The Matrix is I think as long as people think of acting as talking.
Yeah.
Talking, he's not the best.
No.
But as long as his is a physical presence and physical acting, he's among the best.
Yeah, I agree. He's got great energy when he does that kind of stuff.
Okay. Yeah, okay. What's next?
If you have one, your favorite European movie / director. European. So it
favorite
Asian
European
cinema.
movie / director.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about before Jean Renoir's The Rules of the Game. That is just
yeah,
an
yeah.
amazing
That's a
movie
good
to me.
movie.
F.W. Murnau. Well, because the thing is, too, there are a whole bunch of European directors who came to the U.S.,
Right.
like Billy Wilder, and, like, so do they count?
Oh, I don't know. As you said, he does not,
does not-
she does
you don't
not go into
specify.
specifics.
There's some great films by Fellini, obviously, Antonioni.
You're not saying any of the movies besides The Rules of the Game.
8.5 is an unbelievable movie.
Uh-huh.
Seventh Seal, Ingmar Bergman is obviously an unbelievable movie.
That's a great movie.
yeah.
And I'm not always the biggest Bergman fan.
Yeah.
Or Fellini. Fellini I cannot get. I think it's for somebody else. If you enjoy it, more power to you. It's a director's. He makes directors' movies.
Yes. Yeah.
So for me, when I watch him, I'm completely bored half the time. I tried to see what's the one with La Dolce Vita.
La Dolce Vita.
Yeah, and man, I was trying. I was struggling in the theater, literally falling asleep.
Right.
And I was like, man, I should be appreciating this, and I just don't. So I don't. There are certain great movie directors that just don't hit the mark for me.
Well, no, I'm not.
other
You're a huge Godard guy.
I am.
And I'm less of a Godard guy.
Breathless is incredible.
Yeah.
And because it's all talking.
Right.
And so I love that as an actor. I'm watching other actors do this incredible script.
And there's things like Rome Open City that messed me up a lot.
Ah.
That's Italian neorealism.
Yes.
I mean, there are a lot. Plus you can go back to F.W. Murnau and the silent era. And,
Right.
There's a lot.
Well, like I said, cinema parody, so
Yeah,
get in
that's-
there.
yeah.
Buñuel is
Oh, sure.
Le Belle de Jour is that's a excellent film.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got those places to wander into. All right, always a pleasure listening to you. Cheers, Nadine, the one with whom John debated whether it is okay or not to invite your ex at your wedding. Yes, I remember that.
What was your answer?
It is if you're willing to if you have good relationship with that person.
This is from Roll John Aranzazu.
Oh, I like it very well.
Aranzazu.
Very well done. Yeah.
Dear Cine-Files, who makes it to your Mount Rushmore of film directors? Specifically, who are your 4 favorite, not necessarily the best directors of all time, and why? And he specifically said favorite and not the best.
Right. Not necessarily the best.
I'm making a small mental adjustment to his question in my head,
okay.
which is just, in my mind, Mount Rushmore is like, you got to put these people up on the mountain because they founded the country. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of how that's how they seem for me.
Yeah.
So for me, Orson Welles is on there.
Absolutely. For me too.
Stanley Kubrick, I think, is on there.
Ooh, Kubrick is a nice choice. Okay.
Akira Kurosawa might be on there.
Absolutely, Kurosawa's on mine.
And Steven Spielberg.
Ooh, wow.
Now this was just off the top of my head.
Right. No one's going to hold you to it. And then
John Ford and Alfred Hitchcock are 2 that are kind of I'm thinking about too.
You hate Hitchcock. That's why we've never done it.
It is
100 freaking episodes. We had never done a Hitchcock movie for some insane reason.
Now we never can.
Now we know it'll be the running gag until the end.
It's the Matt Damon of Matt Damon's going to be a guest of the Cine-Files.
We promised next week we're going to do
Next
Hitchcock
week we're going to do Hitchcock.
Sorry, we
couldn't get to it.
We had to bump it. Absolutely. Wells and Kurosawa. I would say Scorsese.
Yeah.
For me, in the top 4, and I think I'd have to agree with you on Spielberg. I think you have to.
I have to have Spielberg.
You just have to. He's so much he's done over the last 4 or 5 decades of his work.
Yeah.
4 decades of his work that, like, we're still moved by, touched by, multi-generations are touched by him. He's a multi-generational filmmaker is what I'm trying to say. And so, absolutely. But Kubrick loses a little bit for me because I'm not a big Clockwork Orange fan, and I really hate Barry Lyndon.
Yeah.
I mean, with a burning white-hot passion. And I thought he fumbled the ball at the end with Eyes Wide Shut. I just
He's
don't.
an old guy.
Yeah, I don't like it. So
I haven't seen it in forever.
okay,
I think I saw it in the theater and I saw it once since then, and that's it.
right.
So, but yeah, it's not my favorite.
Yeah, I wanted to say Ridley Scott, but he has too many misses. All right, it's our last question, huh?
Yeah,
Okay. Is it me or you? I think it's
I think it's me.
okay.
From Michael Green. Your first podcast. I've been looking all over for your first podcast to listen to. Where do you guys hide it?
What?
It's Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah.
It's on both YouTube and iTunes. If you scroll back to June something 2016,
Yep.
it's there.
It's there.
I'll check again.
We don't hide it.
We have not hidden it.
Yeah.
I've listened to your show for a while now, and I will say the podcast is that your podcast, The Rewatchables and Meet the Movie Press, are, in my humble opinion, the best movie podcasts out there.
Thank you.
It's very nice. You've made a small mistake in grouping us with 2 other movie podcasts that we're better than, but you know.
Well said, Steve.
John and Steve, I have to ask you something else now. It's Morgan. Will you watch Seven,
Oh,
Driving
Morgan
Miss
Freeman.
Daisy,
There.
Glory, The Dark Knight, Shawshank again? I love movies, and these films are integral to what has made me who I am. As a film lover, fans will have to separate the person from the actor. If not, stop watching the movies. Do you agree? Hope that you answer, Mike G. Thanks. I mean, I think we've kind of been talking about this a little bit,
but we can address it specifically to Morgan.
First of all, I've only heard a little bit of the Morgan stuff.
Right.
I like, one of the things I hope as this process of the Me Too movement goes on is that we start to develop some scale and some
nuance.
Yes. Which is that, you know, I don't know what Morgan Freeman's stuff is yet, but making comments which I would find disrespectful and terrible is not the same as raping someone.
Right.
You know, and so I don't know what the deal is with Morgan, but I think kind of my feeling is that, you know, Shawshank Redemption, that's my movie. It's not Morgan Freeman's movie. And his asshole shit, he shouldn't be allowed to take that movie away from me. That's kind of my feeling at this point about a lot of this stuff. I spent time with that movie. I'm not going to, that movie is good for me. And I don't feel like going to watching that movie is like, oh, I'm just enabling an abuser. And like I said, I don't know enough about the Morgan Freeman situation to comment on that.
Yeah. Well, I think so you're asking 2 guys. First of all,
that's fair. That's really good.
It's a minefield for both of us to talk about this. I don't think there's any absolutes. And as I said earlier, it is about your personal decision. I will not stop watching Morgan Freeman films, and I can still abhor what he did.
Right.
Is it on the same level of Weinstein? Of course not. These are, from what I've read
so far.
Right. So this is whatever date we're recording this. I don't know. Nothing has come out yet to say that he sexually assaulted anyone. He has verbally said some things that are inappropriate. Absolutely. There is this one woman on the set who said he lifted up her skirt and said, "Are you wearing underwear?" That's massively inappropriate. I would probably contend that is sexual assault. So that absolutely. One of my friends was named in this, which I don't want to say her name here on the show, but she was named, and I have been on the fence about whether to reach out to her and be like, "Oh, I didn't know about this. Oh my God, are you okay?" But then again, I feel like I would be, in a way, bringing it up for her again, which she's probably got enough people doing that, and I don't want to add to it. So here's what I would say. I agree with Steve that at some point, and this is a man saying this, so take it or leave it, but I do agree that we will have to develop some nuance at this at some point. And I think Matt Damon was clumsily trying to say that, and he should have kept his mouth shut, because the pendulum has to swing
that's
so much farther.
That's what it seems like.
Yeah, and I feel like it has to go that way.
You've got thousands of years of horrible history and abuse towards people that were innocent, and now the pendulum is going to swing the other way, maybe too far for a while. That's
as well
probably right.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that happening as long as it captures all the people who are terrible and makes people change. It makes men. I've had to adjust my approach to certain things because I didn't think it was bad, and then you read the women's reactions to it, and you go, "My God, I didn't know." And by that I mean, like, certain comments, "Oh, you look hot," or "You look good," or, "Oh, I like that dress on you," or something like that. And you're not saying it in a leering way. You're just saying, "Wow, that looks great on you," or like, "You look sexy in that," and you're just appreciating how beautiful they look or how sexy they look. But how that's internalized, and you don't factor in how many times they hear that through the day from different guys, and then you go, because you think yourself you're a unique, special person saying this to this person because you have your own relationship, but you don't factor in how many times that woman has heard that day from wearing that skirt or that dress, and if they don't ever want to wear it again because they don't want to hear those comments again. So it's all of that I've had to kind of learn over the last few years that I didn't know. And I'm still processing and transitioning, as a person in that situation. So, and I wasn't doing anything that Morgan Freeman did or Weinstein did. I just would see a woman who I know and was attractive, and I would say, "Wow, you look sexy in that, or you look good in that." But that's the change, right? And so you learn from a small level to a larger level. And but I certainly am in the camp where I don't want any of these people to come back. Like, I don't want Louis C.K. to come back. I don't want Weinstein to come back. I don't want any of the really gross offenders of this to come back.
The first thing I think is, like, and again, I'm a dude.
Yeah.
But those who have committed crimes should be punished for their crimes. that
Absolutely.
and it's like, what consequences? I'm very uncomfortable in the world that we have of public shaming, and I'm really
Really?
concerned about some of the things. Something I've talked to you about coming on Outlaw Nation to talk about, but it's the thing that scares me the most.
Yeah.
Because a lot of it's coming out against things that the left are doing, which are kind of my people.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some stuff that I don't like.
Yeah.
We're
eating our own.
What?
We're eating our own.
Yeah. Well, and just attacking people where we don't really know anything about them.
Yeah.
But the analogy that I came up with recently is like, let's say you bought a house and you love the house and it was beautifully designed by an architect who was a great architect. And you're like, man, I love everything about this house. I love the bathrooms. I love the windows. I love the view. I love the space. And then you find out that architect's a horrible person.
Yeah.
Do you move out of the house? Because
it's a subjective decision.
Like, to me, it's like the house is the object,
right?
It's your house, and that's kind of where I'm sort of at this moment, is that to make Morgan Freeman rob me of a movie I like, well, then that's giving him too much power on some level,
right?
But it's hard, and I think for me at least, it's really on person by person basis.
It absolutely is too.
Yeah, it's what did they really do? How much does that relate to their art? What is your relationship to that art? It's going to be really hard to figure out.
Yeah, and it's it's a subjective. Yeah, then I mean, what else can you say? And the thing is, there's gradations to this. And so if it comes out that Morgan was raping 20 women, then yeah, at that point, I'll have to reassess. Like you said with Cosby earlier in the podcast,
right.
He's completely done for you. And so if that comes out about Morgan, then yes, I will probably have to reassess all the movies. For me, right. I'm not saying for you. For me, I would have to do that. And the architect situation, if my wife says she's uncomfortable, then we're moving.
Well, sure. Well, absolutely.
And I want to make that clear. Just Steve and I have our opinions on it, but these women coming out absolutely have to be respected, absolutely have to be heard. And whatever the studios decide to do about the Morgan Freeman stuff, they have a right to do that as well in reaction.
Well, and the other thing is that we have to make it abundantly clear to the next generation and to all the fucking men out there who somehow thought some of this shit was okay, that this is not, I mean, it is, I mean, I think I said earlier, it makes me sick to my stomach. Like the fact that, I mean, come on.
Some of the stuff you read is really horrific, and it's an extension of an abuse of power, which is what Graham Butler asked us about, the cliches. This is just an extension of an abuse of power. And for, centuries, women have been seen as objects, whether in art or in real life. And so there's so much more to explore here. I'm just happy that finally in 2017, 2018, we're having these conversations.
Absolutely.
And I would suggest to anybody to watch that Frontline documentary on Weinstein that PBS did. It's an incredible documentary that explores this story. And this story is constantly evolving, constantly changing, and more people are getting snagged up in the web. And we'll see where it all ends up. But like Steve said, I hope we end up in a better situation overall, male-female relationships, because there's been a horrible backlash to this as well with these incels, and that has to stop. That has to fucking stop. And in the end, it's probably going to have to be men stopping other men from doing this shit in more powerful ways and stronger ways before this
You're saying you need to
out.
kick some ass.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I read this incel stuff, and I want to go whip these fuckers with bats and just kick the shit out of them. Because
nobody owes you anything. Like that's a big.
Nobody owes you a goddamn thing.
Yeah,
that's the pampered nature of telling everyone how special they fucking are from birth. Nah, dog. Yeah. Nah, dog. Everyone is special, sure, but you have to go and earn your keep in this world, and no one owes you dick. And anyone suggesting, which some of the people have been suggesting as a result, that these women should allow these men to sleep with them, or these teenagers to allow these teenage men to sleep with them, can go to hell.
Yeah,
can go straight to hell. It ain't your daughter. It's real nice to say that as you're a pundit. It ain't your daughter who's out there, you're making give her virginity to somebody or her sexuality to somebody. You're out of your damn mind. So, this is all changing and evolving, and this is how it goes.
So I think that last question brought a lot of passion out of both of us, and I would like to just bring it back for a moment.
Something positive.
Which is that, is there anything you feel like what's the biggest thing you've learned on the last 100 episodes?
Oh. You mean like about what? Like specifically, what do you mean?
Well, we have done a deep dive into close to 100 movies. We have gone all the way back to the silent era. We've gone through dramas and comedies and horror films. We've talked a lot of different directors.
I think the number one thing that I've learned, and this is the honest truth, is the wealth of technical knowledge that you have at your fingertips.
Oh, thank you.
And the amount, no, honestly, and that how everybody who listens to this podcast should thank God that they're essentially Goodwill hunting this shit, which means they're getting all this knowledge for $1.36 in late fees at the library. Because Steve, if you wanted to learn about how to be a filmmaker, Steve teaches you this in every episode we do. I am not a technical person in terms of filmmaking. I'm more about thematic stuff and symbolism and meaning. That's what excites me. That's where I exist. The technical stuff, and Steve does that too, obviously, but the technical stuff is where I have the gap in knowledge. So the stuff that I've learned in terms of lenses and camera placement and focus and how these scenes are constructed is incredible to me. And so that is probably the number one thing that I've learned that comes to mind. Yeah, that's my honest truth.
Well, first of all, thank you. That's lovely to say, and
true.
very, very, very appreciated.
Yeah.
I would say it's funny. Mine's similar is that I'm locked into, I know exactly what this movie's about, and the great thing about talking through these films with you and with our guests too, because we've had some fantastic guests, is like, I go, oh, this moment in this movie that I've seen, there was one in Lawrence of Arabia, I remember, where I was like, oh, I did not understand that,
right.
And particularly because you're in the movie in the way I'm never in the movie or rarely in the movie, that I go like, oh, I get to see it through John's eyes and experience that, that journey that you've taken. And we, as much as we have a lot of things in common, we also come from really, really different backgrounds. And it's been really great to sort of rediscover. That's been the thing to me, because the podcast has forced me to really study a film every week. And so every week I'm like rediscovering a great film and really, because the technical knowledge I bring, that's really me cramming a lot of times a week before the film.
Sure.
So that because you'll say like, oh, you'll bring up something and I'll go, oh, well, that's because of this and this and this. Well, I didn't know that 36 hours earlier.
Well, but that's irrelevant because you still have the knowledge to talk about it on the show.
Right.
And you know what to take out and use. Right. That's your,
my notes is always sort of like, well,
right.
This is the thing we should talk about at this moment.
Yeah. And that's what I find so incredible about that. But I appreciate you saying this very nicely too. Cause sometimes doing stuff on Collider, brother, I don't get a chance to spread my wings as powerfully as I would like it when analyzing a film or reviewing a film. And so this show and the Top 10 show are my favorite places to come and talk about film. And I hope the fans who see me on Collider and think he's the Transformers guy or he's this guy, are taking the chance to listen to us on the Cine-Files to hear how much I do know about film and how much I can analyze a film in a way that you don't get to see all the time on Collider.
You can't explore a film in 8 minutes.
Or 2 minutes. We were doing with that Now Later and Never show. Yeah.
What can you do? I mean, we can't talk about one look that one person gave someone else and spend 15 minutes going, what did that mean? Right. Or when we just did, I think it will have just released at this point, like 2001. There's a lot of talk about what does this movie mean? Well, you can only do that when you have close to unlimited time.
Absolutely.
But speaking of unlimited time, I think our time for the 100th episode has come to the end. I want to thank everybody who's been listening. Thank you for all your questions. Thank you, our patrons on Patreon for paying for the show.
Thank you.
We very, very much appreciate it. And I, for one, am looking forward to 100 more.
Absolutely, Steve. Me too. I would like to echo that as well. Thank you to everyone who's listened to us, downloaded us, told other people about us, like just everything you've done to build the show up, because we're not on a network with built-in subscribers. We built this ourselves. Yep. And so we appreciate all of you who've come over and listened to it and all of you who've been turned on by it. And our listenership keeps increasing, and that is due to the amount of work you guys do on your end and the amount of work we do on our end. And we're all in this together to build this show up. And so I just want to say I definitely just so appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, all the compliments and all the comments and all the tweets that you guys sent out about the show, because it's nice to know that we're spreading our love of film to you.
Yep.
And that you find some commonality here.
So thank you all very much. As always, if you want to reach me, you can reach me at SR Morris. John, where can they reach you?
You can always reach me at The Roca Says on Twitter and on Instagram.
And I think that's it for this week. Thank you very much. We will see you next time on the Cine-Files.